Mason, step forward, please.
22-year-old Christy Phillips says her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old Adrian Mason, lost her camera. Adrian claims Christy flirted with his best friend, ruining their friendship.
Order, all rise. Yeah, this is case number 156 on the calendar in the matter of Phillips versus Mason. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Phillips, this was your former boyfriend.
Yes.
And you loaned him a camera. Your camera, he wants to borrow it, use it to take some pictures, and you lost the camera.
No, she knows who has the camera.
Well, according to your answer, sir, you left it in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you know where it is?
The person I was
talking to. Do you know
to.
where it is?
Yeah, I know where it is. He told me where it was.
So why don't you go get it?
Why should I?
All right.
I mean, I told her where the camera was, for one, Your Honor, and I forgot the camera. When I came out here, once I went to San Diego, the first thing I did was call her and let her know where her camera was.
Just a minute. It all gets a little confusing, but we're going to straighten it out. Mr. Mason, according to your answer, sir, you acknowledge that you, in fact, did borrow Miss Phillips' camera.
Yeah, I did.
Right?
Yeah.
And you took it with you on a trip to San Diego?
To Los Angeles.
To Los Angeles. You live in San Diego?
Yeah.
Try yes. It's nicer.
Yes.
And you were out at a lunch or at a meeting with a former best friend of yours.
It was a confrontation about what happened between them.
Where was this confrontation?
At the restaurant.
And you had the camera with you?
Yeah, I had it around my neck. And when we talked, I took it off with my hat, my glasses, set it on the side. I began to talk to him.
So you took off the camera. Your glasses, your hat, that's your problem. You took off her camera and you put it on the bench next to you?
The table.
Table. And then you had this confrontation with a former best friend of yours.
Yeah.
Which was about Miss Phillips?
Yeah.
Because you saw her, according to your papers, kissing your best friend.
No, I never saw her. I never saw her. I read in her, she had a little journal sitting out when I came to visit her. And her little journal said that she had flirted, and why did she, she didn't explain, it didn't explain what she had did. So at that time, I couldn't confront her about that. So from that point, I went to LA to talk to him about this.
Okay, so this gentleman was your former friend.
Of 9 years.
Were you dating her at the time?
No.
Were you dating her at the time that she allegedly did this flirting?
No.
Ask him how long it had been.
In any event, it made you mad. Made you mad more at your friend.
Yeah, that's why I had a problem with it.
Made you mad, well, that's reasonable. It made you mad more at your friend than at her. She wasn't your girlfriend. She can flirt with whoever she wants to flirt with, right?
Yeah, you can't compare 5 months of sex with 9 years of friendship, you know?
Listen to me. Well, that was uncalled for, Mr. Mason. So let's get back to the camera. So you left the camera on the table.
Yes.
Now, when you realized you left it on the table, did you call this former friend of yours and ask him whether he had the camera?
No, he called me and let me know I had left it there 30 miles.
That you left it there?
Yeah.
Does he, in fact, have it?
Yeah, he thinks it's mine.
Did you call this gentleman?
When I called Adrian, he was supposed to return the camera on Tuesday. He didn't call me on Tuesday. I called him on Wednesday, said, where's my camera? He said, I gave it to, I don't want to say this person's name, but he said, I gave it to this person. It's going to...
You gave it to Mr. X?
Yes.
He said I gave it to Mr. X.
He said he gave it to Mr. X. Why did you do this?
Did you call Mr. X?
I asked Adrian for his number, and he said, I'm not doing you any favors. He said, I'll mail it to you in the mail, but I'm not doing you any favors. I called him back that day probably like 100 times. I went over to his house, left a note with his roommate.
How long ago was this?
This was late May. This is late May that this happened, middle of May.
She did not call me.
Just a second. Did you give her the phone number?
She has it already. When I stayed with her, I made numerous calls on her phone. They're all long-distance charges.
Listen, she doesn't have to be a detective. You borrowed the camera.
Yeah, I borrowed the camera.
Good. Now, you bought this camera new or used?
I bought it used.
And how much did you pay for it and when?
I bought this at the beginning of school, so that would be September. And when I bought it used from a private individual for about $250.
What do you mean about $250?
Well, it came with a flash, which I didn't give him, a camera bag, all extra stuff that, you know, so, but the camera, what I gave him, $250.
You just said it came with a flash, which you didn't give him.
Yeah, I
It
didn't
came with
give
the
him
bag,
that.
which you did or did not give him.
I didn't give him the bag now. Because when he
Did you
asked
pay
me,
for this by check or cash?
cash.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
She tried to sell me this camera for $80.
When?
You know what I'm saying? Between the point where I found her, what happened at the club, she called me 3 times in between then. I never called her. One time she called me telling me she wanted to sell me this camera for $80. I didn't have the money at the time, so I never spoke about it again. She called me another time, asked me to go to lunch with her. I denied. The last time she called me, she wanted to ask me about some boxes because she was moving. You know, well, she's moving, I'm moving, so we're gonna get together and talk about all the nonsense we did in our relationship because we're going our separate ways.
What does this have to do with the price of the camera?
She sold it to me for $80. I said that already.
No, you said she wanted to sell it to you for $80.
She wanted to.
Is that right?
The amount is incorrect.
How much did you offer to sell it to him for?
We talked about it, and we decided at first 120. We had said that we were gonna, he was gonna buy it for 120.
Right. 120, madam, isn't what you're suing for here, which is $450.
The 450 is because it was for my class. So when he didn't give me back my camera, I had to rent a camera to finish my photo class. And I told him this. I said, I need my camera back today, you know, because
Show me the
for my
price.
photo
Show me
class.
the receipt for the rental. This isn't a receipt for a rental.
That's how much it costs for the rental.
No. A receipt for a rental. If you went to a place and rented a camera, you would have gotten a receipt for the number of days that you rented it. This is just a brochure of how much it would have cost if you would have rented it.
Yes, I understand that, Judge.
You understand? So these are pictures, and this is a brochure. Show me the receipt, since this all happened very recently. Show me the receipt for the rental of the camera that you say you rented.
Yes, the reason why I do not have the actual receipt is because I just moved from San Diego to LA, and all my stuff is at my parents' house, so I wasn't
Except this
able
stuff.
to find that.
This you have.
Because I made a trip this weekend to San Diego
Well, then
for
if
the
you-
camera shop.
Then
to
if
get
you
that.
made a trip to San Diego to the camera shop, you could have asked them for a duplicate receipt.
Yes, they weren't able to do that.
You could have if, in fact, you did rent a camera. I'm not so sure that you rented a camera.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Do you understand what I said to you? You can talk from today till tomorrow. It does not make sense for you to go back and get the brochures and not get a duplicate receipt. Do you understand what I just said? Clear. Good. Give it back to her.
And later today,
I remember getting in a scuffle with her, yes I do. I don't remember who swung first, I don't remember what the argument was about. I remember the police coming over that night. Her nose was bleeding, I had scratches all over my face, so, I mean, it was a mutual thing.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Christy Phillips wants her camera back from her former boyfriend, Adrian Mason. Adrian says he told her where her camera was. He left it at a restaurant.
You know what doesn't make sense to me? You offered to sell him the camera for $120. He says $80. Let's assume I believe you, because there's no question he's responsible for this camera. He's going to buy this camera, and then he can go get it back from the person who he says has it. All right? That's not the issue. The issue is how much. Now, if I believe you, it's worth $120, because that's what you offered to sell it to him for. Then why would you have spent another $300 to rent a camera if you could buy a camera for $100?
Because you can't. The kind of camera I have, you cannot buy. When I offered him the $120, that was because we were together. He wanted this camera our whole relationship. So when we were together, I said the $120. Mm-hmm. No camera that's a camera with a lens, with the 50 millimeter lens, a zoom lens, no camera, you're not going to be able to find that for $120.
You found it, you said you just told me for $250, but now you want $450.
Because I had to pay.
You want twice as much as what you paid for the camera. Well, that's not going to happen.
No, Judge, I paid the $250 for the camera when I bought it. It was a good deal. I'm not going to find that good of a deal anywhere else. And also, Judge.
And you don't have a receipt when you bought the camera?
For the rental. It was a private
I'm not giving you any money for the rental, madam. I think it's a lot of baloney. Because if you went back to the camera shop to get these prices, You could have gotten a duplicate bill if, in fact, you did rent a camera. Do you understand what I said to you? You can talk from today till tomorrow. It does not make sense for you to go back and get the brochures and not get a duplicate receipt. Do you understand what I just said? Clear. Good. Give it back to her. Now, you do not have a receipt for the used camera that you purchased.
No, I do not.
So I have to rely on your word that you, in fact, paid $250 for it. You say she paid less for the camera.
She told me she did.
Judge, can I say...
Just a second. No, say nothing.
If she knew I wanted this camera the whole time, why would she even give it to me 2 days before she has to do something so important? I called her to let her know where her camera was. She never called me.
Mr. Mason,
You know?
you are irresponsible.
Judge,
Do you see my mouth moving?
Yeah, I saw it moving. I'm sorry.
Judge, can I say one thing?
No. You tell me one thing that I can believe, perhaps I'll listen to you in a second. You had a responsibility, if you borrowed her camera, to return it, not to call her up and tell her where she could get it. That's not what happens. When you borrow something, you return it. That's responsible. Now, you can't come into court, madam, and tell anything less than 100% truth. Assuming that what you say is true, that you paid $250 for this camera, I'm assuming that what you say is true. And I'm assuming that you offered to sell it to him for $120. Just a second. What I don't believe, madam, is that you rented a camera, bringing your total claim to $450. That I don't believe. We understand each other?
I understand you.
Good. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $200. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step
Stay out of my life, dude, for real. If she knew I wanted this camera all this time, why would she give it to me, 3 days before she has to do something so important that she rents a $450 camera? 3 hours from my house, she brings me somewhere so we can talk about our life on TV. That's not a woman, that's a little girl, for real. I don't have a friend anymore. I lost a friend because of her, and I lost $200. And then I go home, broke. Now what,
And now the next case.
Parties on Martindale versus Noble. Step forward, please.
21-year-old letter carrier Shanna Martindale claims former live-in lover, 23-year-old electrician Andrew Noble, threatened to kill her. She put him out. Now she wants rent from him.
You two folks lived together for a brief period of time, rented an apartment together. According to your complaint, the defendant assaulted you. You obtained a restraining order against him, had him put out of the apartment. Your lawsuit seeks damages for the assault, as well as the expenses that you incurred for the apartment after he moved.
Correct.
Your defense is you followed the court order, you moved out of the apartment, so you shouldn't be responsible for the rent.
Exactly.
And that you don't really talk much about the assault, except say that you pled guilty, which is...
Yes, I did.
And you spent a couple of days in jail.
Yes, I did.
How long did you live together before this assault took place?
We lived together for a couple of years, and then it happened a couple of times, but it just went by, and then the last time it happened, he threatened to kill me, so that's when I went to, this is my witness, Mandy Smith. I went over to her house and called the police and filed a report.
Well, he threatened to kill you, but you claim that he assaulted you and caused a scar on your lip. When was that?
This was a couple months beforehand. We had gotten into a fight at night, and he had tried to break my nose.
When you say you got into a fight, tell me about that.
We just would go out, and then we'd come home and get into an argument, and then it'd just lead to one thing to another.
Tell me about it. That's not. I assume it's not funny.
No, we just had gotten into it.
Well, tell me about it,
One
madam.
thing was said to another.
The most of your lawsuit is about the injury that you suffered as a result of this assault, which occurred 2 months before you finally separated, according to you. Is that right? Is that right?
Correct.
Fine. Then I want you to tell me about that assault.
Okay, well, we came home. We got into an argument.
What was the argument about? And what did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
I don't remember. This was back like around Christmas. I don't remember word for word, but it just came out as, he thinks I dressed
We
like
had been
a
out
slut.
drinking the night before, Your Honor. I mean, there's no way either of us can probably even remember that fight.
Do you remember hitting her, sir?
I remember getting in a scuffle with her. Yes, I do. I don't remember who swung first. I don't remember what the argument was about. I remember the police coming over that night, and they turned around and left. I mean, her nose was bleeding. I had scratches all over my face. So, I mean, it was a mutual thing.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
He had a hold of my ponytail and had me held to the ground, talking to his mom on the phone at the same time, saying he was going to kill me. She needed to call somebody and get him over there.
Closed captioning sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Shanna Martindale says former live-in lover Andrew Noble assaulted her, scarring her face.
Do you remember that evening?
Yes, I do. I mean, I don't remember exactly what the argument was about, but yes, I remember getting into the scuffle with him.
Did you scratch him on the face?
Yes, I did.
A scuffle is not an assault. A scuffle is when two people get together. You know, he's hitting, you're scratching, he's got scratches on his face, you have scratch on your lip. I mean, how am I supposed to make a determination
That's exactly
in a court
what it
match?
was, Your Honor.
How am I supposed to make a determination with regard to that assault that happened? And there was no arrest. Is that right?
Right.
And you didn't file a complaint.
Right.
And you didn't go to the doctor.
No.
Okay. Now that we've taken care of the assault, let's take care of what happened 2 months later when you had him put out of the house.
Okay.
So tell me what happened when you had him put out of the house.
Let's see, around the beginning of the year, we had started not getting along. I had asked him to leave. He told me no, he'd rather stay with me and be unhappy than to leave me and be unhappy. So then that's when I started staying at my dad's a lot. And one morning I came home to get a uniform for work. I was standing there brushing my teeth. He came in on a rampage, grabbed my mouth. I spit my toothpaste in his face, so he threw me down into the tub. We continued out into the kitchen after he threw my hairdryer at me. He had a hold of my ponytail and had me held to the ground, talking to his mom on the phone at the same time, saying he was going to kill me. She needed to call somebody and get him over there. So at that time, I broke loose from him. I went out to my car and I drove over to her house.
Does that sound familiar?
More or less.
Okay. So you were arrested,
Yes, I was.
spent 2 days in jail.
Yes, I was.
Pled guilty.
Pled guilty. Kicked out of my home.
How much was the rent on this apartment?
$500 a month.
How, had you been sharing the rent?
Yes.
And how much more did you have to go on the lease?
I had to pay $850 to terminate the lease.
Which she didn't pay. I just talked to the lady from the leasing agent Friday, and she said that Shanna's not paid this money. She said she went to rent the apartment out.
The lady told me I had to come up with the half, and then with AJ's half to let her know what I was doing.
Okay. So you really have to come up with $425.
Right.
The state's in my
Shut! How much after you had him arrested did you move out?
2 months.
Did you pay the rent for that 2-month
Yes, I did.
period? Your entire rent was $1,000 for those 2 months, so his share would have been $500. So the amount of your claim is $925.
And then the keys that weren't returned, that was $30.
You mean his keys?
Right.
Well, they're his keys. They're going to go after him for $425 for termination fee. Are you working?
I have it 25.
I work every day of my life.
Good. So they're going to come after you. You were on the lease, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Now, let me explain to you what your defense is, Mr. Noble. Your defense is you followed a court order and vacated the apartment.
Exactly.
Right. And I'm going to tell you that you vacated the apartment through fault of your own.
Yes.
Your fault was you pled guilty
Yes, ma'am.
to either an assault or an attempted assault on her, which means that you are responsible for this money. Now, you think that just because you followed the court order, you're not responsible for this money. You are responsible for the money because your actions caused you to be put out of the apartment.
I understand.
So the judgment in the case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $925. That's all.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I thought it was going to cost me more. It didn't, so I'm just happy it's all over.
Got what I came to get, so I'm happy.
Judges on Tholen versus Tholen. Step forward, please.
19-year-old Jamelyn Tholen is suing her mother, Vicki Tholen, for the return of a car. Vicki says she took the car away because her daughter wrecked one car and trashed another.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 168 on the calendar in the matter of Tholen versus Tholen. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Miss Tholen, this is your mother,
Correct.
and I assume this is your father?
Correct.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I hate to interrupt, but I have a restraining order on this man, and I have his criminal record here.
I'm
and
not interested in his criminal record. You have a restraining.
Yes, I do, and he has.
Shh, shh, shh. You have a restraining order against him, is what you're saying to me. Just a second. Are you in fear right now?
No.
Fine. It's not part of this lawsuit. Okay. According to you, your mother had a car. She put the car in your name when you were 18. Is that right?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
And the first car, this first car, you did put in her name? Pay attention. Did you put this first car in her name, the car that was wrecked?
When the car got wrecked, I put it in her name because she said, since I was a full-time nursing student.
I'm
Yes.
leading up to something. The answer
Yes.
is yes, you put it in her name.
Yes.
Did she put it in your name before or after it was wrecked?
The day that I got in a car accident.
So the day that you wrecked the car, she put it in your name.
Correct. The reason why she put it in my name the day I got in a car accident is for insurances purposes because I didn't have insurance.
Because you didn't have insurance?
No.
Okay. Whatever. The car hadn't been yours. You were
Right.
driving your mother's car. You wrecked the car. There was a check from the insurance company for around $2,500. Is that right?
No.
How much was it for?
I have the bill right here.
How much was the check from the insurance?
The check from the insurance was $2,408.56. I'm sorry.
I'd like you to pay attention. I said the check from the insurance was about $2,500.
Yes.
With that, your mother went out and bought another car.
Yes.
Didn't discuss it with you, according to you. But you drove that other car. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Then, according to you, you got into a dispute with your mother.
Yes.
Well, tell me what happened. You're driving this car.
Okay. Your Honor, I was staying with my dad. He currently just got done having back surgery, okay? And I could not leave him at the time. And she wanted to borrow the car to go see her mother in the hospital. And I said, you know, I would love to give you, you know, a ride down there or let you borrow the car, but right now I need the car. For insurance purposes, I was not covered on his insurance. Okay, so I could not drive his car. I had to use my own when I had to go run errands for him and stuff. Okay.
So your mother, just a second. So your mother got angry,
Right.
according to you, and took back the car.
Correct.
And that's what you're suing her for, taking back the car. Because you think that since the insurance check was in your name for the first car that you trashed, that you totaled, and your mother used that insurance money to purchase a second car, that second car, the one that you were using when you were taking care of your dad's, was yours, and that she had no right to take it back.
May I say something here?
In a second.
Okay.
She's a grown-up. She signed the car over to you on the day you totaled it.
I got in a car accident, the lady hit me.
You were driving the car at the time it was totaled.
Right.
The theory of your case is that since the car was technically in your name at the time the insurance paid out a claim of $2,500, and since that $2,500 was used to pay for a second car
Right.
that you were driving, right?
Right.
That you were driving, that second car really belongs to you, and your mother had no right to take it away from you.
Correct.
Is that the theory of your case?
Correct.
Now I'll hear what you have to say, sir.
Okay. long before,
Stand up.
long before the accident even happened, my ex-wife had fully intended to give the car that got wrecked to Jamelin, but she likes to keep her little strings attached for a control
What's your last
purpose.
name?
Tholen.
Mr. Tholen, your
Well,
comments, Mr. Tholen, are gratuitous and really have nothing to do with this lawsuit. May have something to do with the animus that may exist between you and your former wife, but they have absolutely nothing to do with
I understand that.
Absolutely nothing to do with the lawsuit.
What I'm trying to, the point I'm trying to make here, Your Honor, is that this car, it's not like this car was just all of a sudden just given to Jamal right after the accident. It was fully intended to be given to her long before that.
Just 1 second.
It was just a convenience then.
It's irrelevant.
Okay.
It's irrelevant. I'm going to ask your daughter one question. Did you pay for the insurance on the car that was totaled? That's either a yes or a no.
Did I pay for that?
Did you pay for insurance on that car?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yes.
You paid for the insurance on the car that was totaled?
I have paid for it. She paid for it, I paid for it. Like, she would pay for it and I would pay for it 1 month. I don't have any receipts or anything, though.
Who paid for the insurance on the car? Of course you did.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
What you're supposed to do, sir, is not try to make things worse between a mother and a daughter. You're supposed to try to make things better.
Somebody that takes a car from a daughter and who's trying to get a job and then takes her only means of trying to find a job, to me, is pretty low, Your Honor.
And later today,
nobody will threaten my girlfriend, my fiance, in any way. It does not happen. They do it, they got me after it. I don't care who it is.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jamelin Tholen says her mother, Vicki Tholen, should return the car that is rightfully hers. Vicki says Jamelin owes her for trashing the car.
The theory of your case is technically flawed. This was not your car. The insurance money that was paid on the car was paid, that money was used to buy a second car. Because, listen, I hope the insurance company isn't listening to this case, because technically I think what you did was commit a fraud on the insurance company.
I didn't.
That's my
No.
That's the whole point.
You're not being particularly useful, so I think you ought to sit down.
That's fine.
Good. What you're supposed to do, sir, is not try to make things worse between a mother and a daughter. You're supposed to try to make things better.
I'm trying to.
No. Oh, no. You're trying to make yourself into a hero to your daughter and not make things better between a daughter and a mother. It's already bad enough that a daughter and a mother come here and they stand before a court.
Well, somebody that takes a car from a daughter and who's trying to get a job and then takes her only means of trying to find a job, to me, is pretty low, Your Honor.
That's also very helpful, Mr. Tholen.
Yeah.
This lawsuit is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I can't believe my own daughter would take me to court when I've done everything to help her, and she turned on me. I'm just, it's a nightmare.
I didn't want to bring her here, but that was my only means of transportation. I paid for the car.
It's pretty low that somebody would do that to their daughter.
And now the next case.
Parties on Brown versus Sutter. Step forward, please.
18-year-old law student Tyler Brown claims 20-year-old production worker Nathan Sudarth assaulted him, putting him in a chokehold. Nathan says Tyler threatened his girlfriend.
Mr. Brown, you are seeking damages for an assault. You acknowledge that you assaulted the plaintiff.
Yes, I do.
But you have an excuse. I'm going to hear your excuse in a minute. Why don't you tell me, sir, where did this assault take place?
Okay, Your Honor. It was at a place that I was working at when I was going through high school. I was working. It's a public restaurant. He come in to where I was working.
What kind of work were you doing?
Well, it's a pizza place. I was back at the sink washing the potatoes and stuff that they use to cook. And he come back while I was working. I was standing right by the sink. He walked to the restaurant, ran into the back, grabbed me. I was standing at the sink, slammed me against the cooler and started choking me. And then he was cussing at me and everything. And then I have
statements and stuff here from where I have from the ladies. That it took 2 of the ladies that worked there to finally get him off of me after he stood there and choked me and cussed
All
at
right,
me.
so how did he choke you? Was he in a chokehold, or how did he
Yeah,
choke
he just come up against me and he slammed me against the cooler, and I was stuck against the cooler, and he was like this.
When
and he
he
was
was holding your hand like this, was your neck in his hand?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that how he was choking
Yes,
you?
ma'am.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. And you had him arrested?
Yes.
And you pled guilty?
Yes, I did.
And now you want to tell me the excuse that you have?
Yes, I will. He decides he wants to threaten my girlfriend, says he wants to beat her up.
Stop. From what I read in the papers, your girlfriend was also working at the pizza parlor.
Yes, she was.
She's here. This is your girlfriend.
That's her right there. She
You
come
can
home.
tell me what she told you because it's your reason for this assault.
I come home. She told me that he had been yelling and screaming at her because evidently he thought that she was talking about him to somebody else, which was bull. And so he takes and he decides to walk over to her and threaten to beat her up. And therein, you know, that's it. Nobody threatens her. I'm sorry. But nobody will threaten my girlfriend, my fiance, in any way. It does not happen. They do it, they got me after them. Because that is not right. I don't care who it is. Now, if it's another girl, fine. Some guy wants to threaten her, they got me to deal with, because it won't happen.
How many times have you been arrested?
I've been arrested 1 time.
My sense is, sir, that it's not the last time.
No, that is the last time.
Well, I'm not so sure if that's your attitude. Because your girlfriend looks like a nice girl. I don't know whether she was saying things about him or not. Was he, stand up here a second. Was he your boss?
No, he wasn't.
He was just a fellow employee.
Yes.
And I gather from your hot-headed boyfriend over here that he thought that you were saying things about him to other employees.
Right.
Were you?
Not that I recall.
But you could have been.
Right.
So you got angry.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember what you said to her?
I just remember confronting her about what she said, because some of the other ladies that had worked there said she was saying things about me, and it disturbed me. And I just went up and I said, hey, if you have a problem with me, mention it to me. You ain't got no right to go around, you know, saying it behind my back and everything. If you got a problem with me, talk to me about it, you know? And, I mean, we can go from there.
Okay. What do you say he said to you?
Well, he was yelling and screaming at me, and he was...
No, what did he say?
He was yelling to bring it on.
Bring it on?
Yes.
Okay, what else did he say?
That's all that I remember. And
bring it on? Oh, shh, shh. Bring it on.
Yes.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
That's not what you told me 2 minutes ago.
No.
2 minutes ago, you said to me, if somebody threatens it, they're going to have to deal with me. That's what you told me 2 minutes
if
ago.
nothing
So
gets done
it
about it
seems
through
to
the
me
police,
that
I
you
will.
have, in fact, sir, matured over the last 10 minutes, which makes me feel very comfortable.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Tyler Brown says Nathan Sudarth assaulted him. Nathan says Tyler should not have threatened his girlfriend.
Is there a boss at this pizza parlor?
Not really.
Pizza place? Pizza parlor is New York, isn't it?
That's right.
Pizza joint, pizza restaurant.
Pizza Emporium.
Is there Pizza Emporium? That's good. Is there a boss there? There's got to be a boss there at this place. An owner?
Yes.
Well, why didn't you go to the owner?
I did.
And what did the owner? You went to the owner. Did the owner give you a satisfactory response?
He made sure that we were no longer scheduled to work with each other, but the owner was not around, so it was a few days later.
Fine, but when you saw the owner, the matter was resolved. You were no longer working same shifts.
Right.
And you haven't had difficulty with him since?
No.
You have no right to put your hands on anybody at any time, sir.
No,
do you
I
understand
don't.
that?
Yes, I do.
All right. And you did, in fact, put your hands on him.
Yes, I did, and I paid for it.
Well, you may have paid for it criminally,
Yes, I did.
but he has an absolute right to sue you civilly.
What does he have to sue for? He has no injuries whatsoever, no medical bills. He hasn't. He can't win it. He hasn't. There's no way.
There's punitive damages. I could have sued him in a civil court.
He doesn't have to have injuries, sir, for him to get some sort of damages for that 60 seconds, 120 seconds, 5 minutes that you placed
Then you
in
asked me why he
fear.
didn't sue me 2 years ago for it.
May I explain that to you?
Yes.
Because
Just a second. That's a good question.
Because I was not 18. I just turned 18.
That doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
It does not.
Hey, you seem to know everything. Did you
No,
go to
I
law
don't.
school?
No, I did.
Well, if you didn't go to law school, then what you have to do is keep your mouth shut and don't tell a lawyer what the law is. Now, during the course of someone's minority, which means prior to their reaching 18, any statute of limitations tolls, which is, it is sort of held off until they reach majority. Now, your parents could have sued him civilly on your behalf. Why wasn't that done?
They just wanted it, they left it up to me. We had understood about the tolling of the statute. We had understood that, and he said when I turned 18, you know, he would, if that's what I wanted to do, he would, you know.
Now, my question to you, Mr. Brown, is this has clearly festered in your mind for a long time. It's something that was over. I mean, you weren't seriously injured, emotionally perhaps, but not physically injured at all.
Right.
Right? And you were 16 years old at the time. So you've gotten over it.
Yeah, but I still see him in public, and I just get, like, I work part-time, and I just get sick of seeing him in public and him thinking, well, I just got off on a $173 fine. He's got that attitude, so I'm thinking,
That is
well,
no
fine.
attitude.
Then I will pursue it civilly, which that's why I'm here today. If he wants to...
I understand that. You got a fine?
Yes, I did.
Did you spend any time in jail?
No, I bailed.
Well, you bailed, but you were held for a period of time.
Yes, I was.
How long?
About 45 minutes.
Were you put in a cell?
No.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
I can understand your frustration, sir. I probably have more problem with his attitude, which at this point, 2 years after the fact, this happened 2 years ago, should have matured a little bit. I mean, you should have matured a little bit.
I did.
I don't see it, quite frankly. I don't see it. I mean, I don't see it and I don't hear it from your voice that you've matured a little bit, that you haven't
but
learned.
There's a thing that if anybody wants to threaten her, I will have a different way of going around it next time.
What's the other way that you're going to go around the next time?
Oh, hell, I'll go to the police or something, because that's harassment.
Just a second. Hey, shh.
Okay.
Just a second. That's reasonable.
Exactly.
That's reasonable. That's not what you told me 2 minutes ago.
No.
2 minutes ago, you said to me, if somebody threatens it, they're going to have to deal with me. That's what you told me 2 minutes
if
ago.
nothing
So
gets done
it
about it
seems
through
to
the
me
police,
that
I
you
will.
have, in fact, sir, matured over the last 10 minutes, which makes me feel very comfortable. I'm awarding you, sir, $250 for the assault. That's it. It's happened two years ago. You got to get over it. Do you understand?
Yes.
He had no injuries. He had absolutely no right to come into your place of business. He had no right to assault you, especially since, according to his girlfriend, she didn't hear or doesn't recall the kind of threats that your boyfriend told me about. I mean, what was that word that you used? Let's get it on?
He said to bring it on.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Okay, something that I don't even understand. In any event, judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $250. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Well, I believe he didn't deserve what he got. I was right. Anybody wants to pick on my girlfriend, they got a problem, because it's going to be me. But she told me that he had threatened her to beat her up, which is wrong. And the minute I knew I was gone, I went down there.
I don't feel that he deserved what he got either.
A guy has a problem.
Well, I'm obviously happy that she, you know, gave me a judgment. They told me she was saying things, so I went up and asked her. I said, if you got something to say about me, then what is it? You know, say it to me, and she wouldn't say. So she got upset, and like I say, they did call the police, and like the officer said, there was nothing illegal that took place, so they didn't take no report. The next day he comes in and chokes me, he's in trouble for battery because that day something illegal did take place. What I did was not wrong. What he did was.
On Thomas versus Eclavia, step forward, please.
29-year-old waitress Georgina Thomas says her former friend, 36-year-old Carolyn Eclavia, made a false police report that put her in jail for 72 hours.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, all rise.
Judges number 207 in the matter of Thomas versus Eclavia. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Thank you, Bernie.
Very welcome, Judge.
Ms. Thomas, the basis of your complaint is that the defendant had you falsely arrested, according to you, for assault, which caused you to be embarrassed, humiliated, stressed, strained, et cetera, et cetera. Is that right?
Yes.
And your story is a rather interesting one, and I think that probably it needs an airing because it led up to this arrest.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes.
How do you know her?
When I lived in Washington State about 7 years ago, I knew her just from the neighborhood we lived in. We were friends. We've been friends. Then I ran into her again down here about a year and a half ago. So we've been friends and stayed in contact here and there when we didn't lose touch with each other for almost 7 years now.
Now, you were both living on a Navy base?
Navy, military housing.
Military, both of you?
Yes, different complexes.
I understand. And according to the papers that I've seen, there was a transaction with a car that started all this trouble.
Right.
Well, tell me about that.
Okay. I sold her the car for $100, and I let her make payments on it because they had no money, no vehicle, or anything. Then I went on vacation. I signed the title and gave her the keys on the agreement that she would get it out of my name on her husband's next payday because I was leaving on vacation. And then...
what kind of car was this?
Dodge 400. I had bought a new car and I...
How old was the car?
I think at 84 or something like that.
So it was a real old car?
Yeah.
She sold you the car?
No, she sold it to my husband. I don't even drive. I've never driven.
She sold it to you or your husband, but there was an understanding that you would get it out of her name so she wouldn't be liable for it anymore.
Yes.
Did you do that?
The agreement was she would wait until we had the money, which would be the next paycheck.
But then you didn't.
The Navy was.
But you didn't do it the next paycheck.
We didn't have the money at that time.
I don't care whether you didn't have the money. That's not her problem that you didn't have the money. Let me just understand this. And you didn't fulfill your agreement with her next paycheck to get the car out of her name. That's what this whole argument was about. Is that correct?
That's what started it, yes.
So then what happened?
Then she tells me on the day I got home that she had sold the car and it's out of my name. So I called the DMV and it was still in my name. In fact, it's in my name to this day.
Did you tell her that you sold the car?
Yes, I did sell the car. My husband and I had separated and I didn't have any finances, so I did sell the car.
Now tell me about this assault. How did this all take place?
It was basically because her husband was driving a car around in my name uninsured. Then she sold it to somebody I don't even know who's driving it around in my name uninsured.
She's very irresponsible.
Then I talked to her on the phone and she said, come over and get your cat. She had my cat while I was on vacation. I went over there. We got into a verbal argument. All I did was throw
over the car.
Over the car, yes, and her not getting it out of my name. All I did was throw the litter box on the ground, and the next thing I know, the police are at my house telling me that I assaulted her and I threatened her life if she didn't sign a bill of sale. And I just kept insisting I didn't do this, you know, and they kept telling me, you know, this is what you did. And they arrested me.
Do you have a copy of the complaint?
The police report?
Yes.
No, I tried to get it, but it had been over 60 days, so they wouldn't give it to me without a court order.
This is untrue, what she says.
Just a minute. Did you call the police?
Yes, I did, and the
Why?
reason why I called the police is when she came to pick up her mail and her cat, when I turned around to get the mail, she threw the cat on me to where it clawed my back, and its claw stuck in my back. Then I went and I tried to get outside to where somebody could see what she was doing. I did not have a phone in my home. My neighbors heard and saw her yell at me and say that she was going to come back and kill me.
You called the police?
Yes, I did call the police. She
All right.
assaulted me in my own home.
Well, just a minute. Did you throw your cat on her?
No, my cat was pregnant. I would not harm my cat in any way. I never touched her. I will take a lie detector. I will do anything. I never touched her. I never assaulted. I never threatened her life. I never did any of that. The only
Well,
thing
you might
her
have threatened
neighbors
her.
saw.
You might have said a lot of loud things because you were angry.
Exactly. But the only thing the neighbor saw was me throw the kitty litter box on the ground, which was empty, and say, I'll be back later for the car because she told me to come back for the car. The guy who bought it doesn't want to deal with this.
Do you have any photographs of how the cat injured you?
I had them at home, but I never got them developed because I dropped charges on her.
Just a second.
I did not want to press charges.
Hold on a second. Well, even if you didn't want to press charges then in the criminal proceeding, you're here today, so you knew you were coming to court today. Why didn't you get the pictures developed?
Because I did not even want to have it brought this far.
But
She
you know
has
you were
3
coming here,
children,
madam.
and I did not want it brought this far.
Well,
she did not drop the charges. They dropped the charges because she never
No, that is
responded
untrue.
to any of it.
That
the
is
DA dropped
untrue.
the charges.
No,
she
it is
never
not.
responded to them.
How
I had
long
to
were
go
you in
to
jail?
a mediator. 72 hours.
No, that is untrue.
And my
Whenever-
bill was $15,000. I was in there with hookers and prostitutes that could have got out for $150. Mine would have been $1,500.
Ms. Thomas, had you ever been arrested before?
No, I was taken to the police station one time for police disturbance when I was like 18 or 19.
You also say in your complaint that the defendant wrote letters to your husband.
Yes.
While he was away at
This
sea.
letter. I have it right here.
I'd like to see those letters, please.
Do you want to see the one to my housing manager?
Yes, I want to see
This
all
is the one to my housing manager. It's signed concerned citizen, but you can tell the handwriting matches it perfectly.
Can I see them?
Every sick thing you can imagine she wrote about me.
Excuse me. If she is so nice and innocent, then why do my children fear her? The same day that she assaulted me, my son is coming home from school. She pulls up to him as he's crossing the street from the school, and she tells him that if you don't get out of the street, she's gonna run him over, an 11-year-old boy.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You are full of baloney because if you had injuries in pictures, you would have brought them.
And later today,
I think at the time he had something for me or an infatuation for me, and he thought he could get on the good side of me by posting the $5,000 bill.
Well, that was nice.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Georgina Thomas says her former friend, Carolyn Eclavia, had her falsely arrested after an argument over a car.
Right now, all I have is her complaint. Put it down. I'm speaking. I have her complaint. In her complaint, she mentioned several things. You want to sue her? If you think you have a cause of action,
No, I did not
file a
want to
complaint. I'm asking you, did you write to her husband, Ron?
Her husband had asked me time
the answer
and time
is
again.
yes
I
or
did
no.
write him.
Good.
Yes,
and this
he
is
wanted to know if she was having an affair.
Hey, you pay attention to me. You wrote her husband. Did you write to her husband before or after this incident involving the police?
Afterwards.
How long had you known her husband?
I've known him before I met her.
So you felt compelled to say that his wife was cheating on him as a
Yes, he had asked me time
boyfriend?
and time again whether she was having an affair. And
When
yes,
did
I
he-
did write, and I did tell her, because the boyfriend was coming to the house where I babysit, where I live, harassing my sons.
It's not true.
Yes, it is true.
Just a second. All of this didn't seem to bother you when you bought her car.
Because
You
I
bought
did
just
not
a
buy it.
second.
I don't even
listen,
drive.
Listen to me. All these things, the boyfriend, who was, according to you, when you wrote this letter to the landlord, a convicted felon. She sells pounds of weed and cocaine out of her house. All of these things didn't bother you when she sold you the car a few weeks before this incident occurred. How come all these things just bothered you after the car incident?
Because the harassment didn't start until after she had the problem with my husband. To me, it was
Just a minute,
her
what-
business.
just a
I have
second,
no
what-
right to judge her.
So,
but when
what-
she started harassing me, harassing my children, and assaulting me, then yes, I believe.
Then
yes.
all of a sudden, just a minute, then all of a sudden you decided that her husband had to know, the landlord had to know about all these charges after that. But before it was okay.
I did call the DA
Just a
that
second.
had pressed charges
Hey,
time and time again.
just a second.
And no one would come because I could not afford the restraining order against her.
You don't have to afford a restraining order, madam. All you have to do is go to court. And if you have a case, you can get a restraining order. Don't give me a lot of baloney. Instead of using the court system, what you did was you wrote letters designed to make trouble for her.
Thank you.
That's what you did. And calling the police, because I don't believe she threw her cat at you.
Oh, that is
Oh,
wrong.
no, I don't believe it. Because I believe, madam, if she threw her cat at you, you are organized enough, based upon these letters, to have developed the photographs, which you say you have at home.
I do
When you
have
knew
them,
you
I
were
don't
coming
care.
to court today to show me the injuries, you are organized enough to do that. So I don't believe that there were any injuries. I believe that she did
Then
probably...
why would the district attorney look at him on my arms, on my back, and decide
Do
that
you-
he would press charges? If there was
Mrs.
nothing
Clava-
wrong, why would he take her to jail?
You are full of baloney, because if you had injuries in pictures, you would have brought them. Now, the only issue is, what kind of damages am I going to assess against you? Because I believe that you are a nasty, vindictive person.
Can I explain a
That's
little
what
more?
I believe. You are a nasty, vindictive person. And I believe that she's entitled to be compensated. Now, the truth is, you threw down this item at her.
I'm kidding.
Okay?
Not
and I
at
don't,
her on the ground.
Whatever, Miss Thomas. You were angry. Very angry. And you probably did say something like you're going to be back because you probably got into a major altercation with her. I don't believe that she had the right, really, at that point, because she was not, in fact, injured by you, to call the police. But I believe that there is more of a vindictiveness involved here than anything else. As a result of that letter that she wrote to your husband, did anything happen?
We're now getting divorced, yes.
Well, it wasn't just because of this letter, is that
no,
right?
we were having small problems at first, but nothing like this.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you whether you had a boyfriend or not. It's really none of my business. The letter was written maliciously, and the letter to the landlord was also written maliciously. That is Army Housing. I'm awarding you $2,500, and that's against you. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused.
you.
You may step out. Back to your right, please.
I've taken her food. They had no food, anything. I was a good friend to her. I took her to buy the dress she has on now because she doesn't drive.
Oh, you're
I
full
did
of it.
everything for
You
her.
were nowhere
The
near
only
me.
thing I have to say is, from now on, if your big sister warns you about somebody, you should listen to it. She's just jealous. She's very jealous because I get all the attention and she gets none.
And now the next case.
Bodies on Crawford versus Sullivan. Step forward, please.
30-year-old personnel director John Crawford says he bailed his friend Shannon Sullivan out of jail and he won't pay him back. Shannon claims he never asked John for his help.
You were arrested for assault. He posted bail.
That's correct.
You won't pay him the money for the bail that he posted for you.
That's correct.
Well, let us start with you, sir,
Okay.
because I found your response, quite frankly, slightly ungrateful. Now, when were you arrested?
On the 24th of November,
What were you arrested for?
assault.
Don't look down there. You probably don't need it, because
Actually,
I'm sure you
okay.
can tell me
It
exactly.
was the 28th of November.
And you were arrested for assaulting whom?
Somebody at a nightclub.
Were you drunk?
Nope.
So that wasn't an excuse.
No.
You just didn't like them.
No, that wasn't the fact either. I was pulling out of the driveway at the nightclub, and this particular individual walked up to my car and kicked it, a brand new car. Myself and another friend got out of the vehicle and walked up to him, and he started a confrontation. I went back to get in the vehicle, and he came in the vehicle after me. He was on top of me inside the vehicle. The police were sitting out front, and they all swarmed in, and they seen it happen.
Well, that sounds like he assaulted you, so why do you think you were arrested?
Because of the injuries on him.
Which were, I assume, substantial?
Yes.
Were you convicted of that assault,
No, I
ultimately?
wasn't.
Did
It
you
was-
go
the case
to trial?
was dismissed.
Now, when you were arrested, you were taken to jail,
Yes.
and Bail was fixed?
Actually, I was going in for my OR hearing.
What's an OR hearing?
Release on my own recognizance.
But you spent the night in jail.
No, I didn't.
You spent any time in jail?
Yes.
Is the reason that you were released from jail because this gentleman posted bail?
That's correct.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Forget the bail. Why didn't you say that?
Well, I didn't think about it at the time in the bill.
Well, you should have thought about it at the time, Mr. Sullivan.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 30-year-old personnel director John Crawford says he bailed his friend Shannon Sullivan out of jail and he won't pay him back. Shannon claims he never asked John for his help.
How long did you know him before you posted this bail?
Not very long, just a couple of weeks.
And would you tell me how it came about that you posted the bail for him?
I happened to be walking out of the nightclub right as this incident started, and I witnessed it. And I saw the police take him away. I received a phone call at early hours in the morning from the friend that was with him, and he said, Shannon is in jail. He wanted me to call you, tell you that he's in jail. This friend said that he told Shannon he could not get him out of jail and wanted to know if I could do anything to help get him out. He said that Shannon would try to get a hold of me later, which he did. He was able to call me from a desk sergeant's phone.
So he called you from a desk sergeant's phone, and what did he say when he called?
He gave me all the specific information, the case number, told me what he was booked on, told me how much the bail was. I immediately called a bail bondsman. I didn't even think twice about calling a bail bondsman. Even though we weren't really good friends, I just felt sorry for him. I didn't want anyone to have to spend Thanksgiving Day in jail when he was planning on going to see his family in Arizona the next day. So I placed bail for him. And
how much did that cost you?
Well, bail was $5,000. They charged 20% of that for fees, and then there's filing fees, so it was $760.
And did you have a discussion with him about paying you back?
He wrote me a thank you note, said, I can't believe you did that for me. Don't worry, I won't let you down. I felt sorry for him because he said that he needed money, and I actually knew of some work that was opening up where I work, and so I gave his name to some people at work. He was hired at work, worked there just a short time, and after he stopped working where I work, he stopped returning all phone calls. I tried calling several times.
All right, Mr. Crawford. Now, Mr. Sullivan, $760 is what this gentleman spent on your behalf. Now, you want to try to explain to me why you don't think you owe him this money.
First of all, I knew I was going to an OR hearing and I was going to be released, okay? When I went up to the judge for my OR hearing, she said that you were just released on a $5,000 bond. I did not know who did. I didn't contact anybody. I never contacted my family or anything. Nobody even knew about it except for Paul, which was my friend. I never requested John to bail me out whatsoever. John did it on his own. That was his own thing. He did it.
Yeah, I'd spend that much money just to be nice.
Okay.
So why didn't you just tell the judge,
first,
I'm not accepting this bail, and I'm prepared to hear whatever you have to say, and I'll plead my own case to be released on my own recognizance without any consideration of this bail, so forget the bail. Why didn't you say that?
Well, I didn't think about it at the time in the bail.
Well, you should have thought about it at the time, Mr. Sullivan. You were more than happy at the moment to say, thank you very much. Where's my hat?
Bye-bye.
He wasn't arrested. You were arrested. Sounds to me like he was a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy for doing that. But I think there's more to it than just being a nice guy also.
Like
I think
what?
at the time he had something for me or an infatuation for me, and he thought he could get on the good side of me by posting the $5,000 bail.
Well, that was nice.
Yeah, it was too nice, actually.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You had an option, sir. Your option was to say to the judge, who posted the bail for me? Question. Answer, Mr. Crawford. Mr. Crawford.
I did ask that.
You did ask.
They did not have that at the time because the bondsman had not delivered everything over to the court
Well, if the
yet.
bondsman hadn't delivered everything over, Mr. Sullivan, they wouldn't have released you.
That's what I was told.
They
I didn't
wouldn't
get out
have
till 2
released
hours
you if
later.
the bondsman had not delivered all the paperwork. I've been around long enough to know that.
Okay. I'm just telling you
All
what I
right, this is
know.
not a very difficult case. You owe him $760.
Okay.
Period. End of discussion. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Like I said in there, I just didn't want anyone to have to spend Thanksgiving in prison. I felt sorry for him, and I trusted him, and I thought I'd get my money back immediately, and it's taken 9 months to do it.
I don't felt I owed it to him. I didn't request for him to do it. He did it on his own will, and there's reasons why he did it.
Parties on Stake versus Martin. Step forward, please.
41-year-old Gina Stake says she loaned her car to her 19-year-old son, Paul, who got drunk with Jamal, the 19-year-old son of Queenie Martin. Jamal wrecked the car, and Gina says Queenie should pay for the damage.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 229 on the calendar in the matter of Stake versus Martin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, sir. Have a seat.
Oh, no. Come up here, gentlemen. This is your son, Mrs. Stake.
Yes, it is.
And Miss Martin, this is your son.
Yes, it is.
How lovely for you both. Miss Stake, you had a rental car. You let your son drive the car. He was with his friends. My reading of these papers suggests to me that both of these idiots got drunk. He drove the car right into a pole. Right?
Correct.
You think his mom, because he's a minor, should pay for the damage to the car.
Correct.
His mom says that you know your son drinks and you shouldn't have given him the car. That's your position.
That's correct.
So that you are not responsible for the damage.
Right.
Before I ask you two ladies to sit down, I'd like just for you to give me the bills for the car, and then I'm going to deal with the young men.
This is the
So the amount that you had to pay was $5,878.43.
That's the balance of it. My insurance paid $4,900.
But this is just the balance.
Correct.
Why don't you two ladies have a seat for a moment? I'll ask you to come back in a moment. Your first name is what, sir?
Paul.
Paul. And yours?
Jamal.
Now, Paul, tell me about how your mother, it came about that you asked your mother to borrow the car for the evening.
Well, it was, we all wanted to go out. He called me up. He said, what's up on the night? And I said, nothing, and got this rental car, and, you know, he wanted to go kick it. So I was like, all right, fine. You know, I told him I didn't have no money. He said, come on now, this is Jamal.
Could you keep your voice up and try to speak slowly?
Oh, okay. He was like, come on now, this is Jamal. So I was like, all right. So he wanted to get drunk. Well, we all wanted to get drunk. So he went and bought the drink. Then after a while, we went to my...
Just a minute. So you went to your mother, and you said to your mother what?
Well, actually, she already gave me the car. She already let me use the car.
That day?
Yeah. But
What did she say when she gave you the car?
She was like, be careful. And I said, okay.
That sounds right. You said, be careful?
Yes.
So right after your mother said, be careful, you and this genius over here decided to use the car and to go and get some booze and drink, right?
Right.
And where did you decide to do that?
At my sister's house.
Your sister's house? How old is your sister?
Well, she is about 19 now.
So you decided to go to your 19-year-old sister's house with Jamal over here and how many other people?
Just one more person, my best friend.
Now, were you drinking before you got to your sister's house?
Uh-uh.
Uh-uh is not an answer in court.
No.
No is an answer. So what happened at your sister's house?
Well, I said, let's leave, you know, because he got into an argument with my sister and everybody else in the house. So I said, you know, let's leave. But by that time we decided to leave, we was already toe up.
You were what?
We were already drunk.
What was the word he used first? Toe up.
Toe up.
Okay, go ahead.
And so, you know, I was too intoxicated to drive, but I still said, let's go. But I wasn't going to leave just right away after I said, let's go. I was going to stay there and wait until I got sobered up. But he was like, no, you too drunk. He tried to take the keys from me. I was struggling with him because I was going to throw them to my best friend across the street. But he already got the keys from me because I was too intoxicated to hold on to the keys. But I still remember that. And after that, he just got into the car. I don't remember how I got into the car. That's the only thing I don't remember. But we got into it.
Well, if you don't remember how you got into the car, you must have been 3 sheets to the wind. Did you ever hear that expression? 3 sheets to the wind?
Nah, no.
No.
So.
No, toe up, you know. Go ahead. So now you're in a car. You don't know how you got there because you were
toe up.
Drunk as a skunk. Right?
Yes.
What do you remember next, Paul?
All I remember is you know, I hear the car going, and next thing I know, I hear him and my best friend in the back arguing, telling him to slow down. And I did wake up and say, slow down, and then I went back.
That you remember. You don't know how you got into the car, but you remember saying, slow down.
I do remember that.
Okay. And the next thing you know, you were dancing with a pole.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They're 2 idiots.
I agree with that. And the mother is an idiot as well.
Excuse me?
And later today.
Just a second. A bunch of guys went fishing to celebrate his wife being pregnant?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gina Stake is suing Jamal Martin's mother, Queenie, because Jamal wrecked her car. Queenie says she's not responsible, claiming Jamal only drove the car because Gina's son, Paul, was too drunk to drive.
Jamal!
Yes.
Let's hear from you.
Okay. On September 13th, I called him and asked him.
Let's do this. You were in his sister's house drinking.
We were outside drinking.
I stand corrected. You were outside drinking.
Mm-hmm.
What were you drinking?
A bottle of Tanqueray.
Tanqueray. That's
yes.
Vodka?
Gin.
Gin. Thank you.
Order.
All right, so you all get towed up. Tow up?
Toe up.
Tow up. You all get tow up, and you got into the car.
Yes.
And what happened?
While we were outside, I was talking to a friend, and I heard some yelling. When I turned around, Paul and his friend Jacoby were arguing about who was going to drive home. Now, I already knew that Paul had passed out, so I walked over to him and told him to give me the keys. There was an incident months before where he had gotten drunk, and I had drove him home before, and his mother had thanked me for it the next day.
Were you drunk
No.
then?
No, I wasn't.
Yes, but you were drunk that evening.
Yes, I was.
So you got behind the car, the wheel of the car,
Yes.
drunk,
Yes.
and hit a pole,
Yes.
and totaled the car.
Yes.
How old are you?
19.
How old are you?
18.
You go to school?
Yes.
You work after school?
No, not anymore.
Why?
Well, they had to let me go because I had to rephase a class. And
You had to what?
Rephase a class. That's taking the class over.
Why?
Because it was hard and I didn't understand it, so I had to take it over.
What about you?
No, I'm working right now.
Oh, good. That's good.
Thank you.
Now I'll have the mothers back. Consider yourselves both really lucky. I assume you do. You look like two absolutely lovely women.
Thank you.
Lovely, responsible women who really shouldn't be here today because they're too big to beat, for want of a better word. So you got to beat them financially in order to teach them a lesson, both of them. Because I agree with you that this young man is partially responsible for this bill. So is he. You agree?
I agree.
He had no business getting behind the wheel of a car.
That's true.
So he's got to pay.
I also agree, however, though, that mistake is also at fault.
If she knew that her son had driven before drunk,
right,
and she was hoping it would not recur, is that right?
I agree.
Then she's partially responsible. He's going to pay half of this bill.
And what portion is mistake going to pay?
Oh, that half. That half, because it's going to take him a long time collecting cans or doing whatever he does to come up with $2,800, $2,900,
Okay.
which is what we're talking about. Bottom line is, he was the one who could have killed himself, the passengers in the car. Instead of hitting a pole, he could have hit.
But who made
someone crossing the street with their baby carriage.
This was
Instead of
3
a
o'clock
pole.
in the morning.
Hmm?
This was 3 o'clock in the morning.
So what? Are you trying to make an excuse for him?
No, I'm just saying that no
Don't
baby,
make
no one
any
in a baby
excuse for
carriage.
him.
I am not making an excuse. I
So if
told
it wasn't
him.
a baby carriage, if it was somebody
But I
coming home
understand
from a
what you're
3
saying.
o'clock shift working that was crossing the street that he could have killed because he's an idiot.
Right, I understand that.
All right, good. So let's not make any excuses. I don't like excuses for one's children. When they do something stupid, you're supposed to say, my kid did something stupid.
And that's exactly what I'm saying, Your
Perfect.
Honor.
Then he's going to
But
pay
I'm also
half.
saying that I feel that my son was a minor at the time. Her son was over 18. Yes, I am responsible for my child. Her son, who was working at the time, is responsible for himself.
Right.
Now, she sent me a letter saying that to split the difference. I sent her a letter back saying, because I feel that you are at fault as well as your son and the other gentleman in the car, I feel that the greatest burden should be paid by her and the 3 boys should split the remaining difference.
I see it differently. I see it big time differently, and I'm going to tell you why. But for the actions of your son, it is possible that that car would not have been driven that night. He didn't have to take the keys to the car and drive it. He could have said, I'm going back in the house and calling my mother and having her come and pick me up because I'm not going to drive this car while I'm drunk. If they want to act like fools and drive the car, that's none of my business. Then you wouldn't be standing here
Exactly.
today.
Also-
No, just a second. They're 2 idiots.
I agree with that. And the
All
mother
right.
is an idiot as well.
Excuse me?
I'm saying, had she not commended him, her undermining what I'm teaching my child by saying, yes, Jamal, you did a good thing driving my son home when he was drunk, maybe he wouldn't have drove this time. I'm not making an excuse, but I'm saying...
You are making an excuse,
No, I'm
madam.
not.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Like I said, this is all funny to me. There's no person in this world like me. I can overcome anything in this world at all, anything.
And later today,
Tom had been consenting to drinking and driving.
Mr. Jackson, you were blotto drunk.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Miss Martin, she said to you in her letter, split the difference
And I
with me
don't feel it
because
should be
I am
split.
prepared to accept part of the responsibility for giving my son the car. She didn't say to you, your son was driving, therefore he's got to pay the difference. She said, I'm prepared to split the difference with you. That's assuming, on her part, a certain responsibility for allowing her idiot to drive the car in the first place. Come on, get it together, madam. $2,900. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Have the back door to your right, please.
The money, that's not nothing. I'm still going to live out my dreams and become the richest person in 5 years. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like I said, this is all funny to me. They can get their money all they want to. But once they see me what I become in the future, I mean, they're going to feel bad because they're not a part of it.
Well, there's somebody lying big time.
Yeah, must be, because that's what he said.
And it sure ain't me lying either.
And now the next case.
All parties on Heasley versus Jackson. Step forward, please.
Tom Heasley is suing his former friend, Clark Jackson, for wrecking his truck during a drunken camping trip. Clark says Tom encouraged him to drive while intoxicated and should share the blame for the accident.
Mr. Heasley, you and a few friends, including the defendant, went on a fishing vacation. Now, tell me about this fishing vacation. Who went on the fishing vacation?
Jesse Mobley, who's my witness, I went, and Clark Jackson went. We decided to go up to Rock Creek Lake to do some trout fishing to celebrate Jesse's wife being pregnant. So
Just a second. A bunch of guys went fishing to celebrate his wife being pregnant?
He had the choice of what we were going to do.
What's your name?
Jesse Mobley.
You must have a very understanding wife, Jesse.
Oh, yeah.
Lucky you. So you went trout fishing, got some liquor?
We brought up some beer. Clark purchased a pony keg to bring up for the second night.
Pony keg?
Yeah, 5 gallons of alcohol for our last night there.
Mr. Heasley, let's get to the truth of it. Everybody was pretty drunk, and he took your truck.
The night he took my trunk, all of us had a decent amount of alcohol.
Okay. Now, how did you get behind the wheel of this truck? Tell me about it.
Well, Your Honor, we had gone up to the store the night before and gotten some firewood, and we went back to the campsite that night, and we drank a couple more beers, and we started a campfire. I went to sleep, and they burned all the firewood that night, 5 bundles of firewood. The next night, I went to go light another fire, and I realized there wasn't any firewood, and I said, well, I'll go get some. Tom, you want to go with me? And he said, no, I don't want to go. I asked Jesse. Jesse said, no, he doesn't want to go. So I said, okay, fine. I'll go get it myself.
And you had been drinking?
Yes, I had been. It was a bad judgment error, and...
Is that what happened?
Not even close.
So tell me your version of what happened.
Clark jumped in the truck without permission before Jesse and I could protest from the back of the campsite, said, I'm going to the store, jumped in, and was gone. And I waited. This was a night where he had drank quite a bit. We all had. But none of us, Jesse and I were not anywhere near as drunk as Clark was. We weren't stumbling around the campsite. We weren't driving.
Okay, so he jumped in the car. And then when was the next time you saw him?
The next time I saw him was when I decided to put on my jacket and walk up to the store because he'd been gone for an hour and a half. I met the highway patrol coming down. It's documented here. They said, Tom, your truck has been totaled. We're taking Clark down for DUI.
Which they did?
Which they did.
Now, tell me about this truck that you have. How old is it?
It's an 88 Ford Bronco. I just purchased it for $4,900.
You have proof of the purchase price of this truck for me?
Yes.
Can I have it, please? Now, Mr. Jackson, while I'm looking at that, sir, why do you feel as if you're not responsible for his truck?
Basically, Your Honor, previously, well, the entire trip up there, Tom had been consenting to drinking and driving. Everywhere we went, we were drinking. On the way up there, Tom was sitting in the back seat of the Bronco handing us the alcohol.
How old are you, sir?
I am 22.
Not true.
There comes a point, sir, that you have to be totally and completely responsible for what you do.
Yes, ma'am, I do understand that. But he did give me consent earlier that day by saying, you are welcome to drive my truck anytime this weekend. You are a very good driver. I know you can handle it.
Mr. Jackson, you were blotto drunk.
Yes, ma'am, I do understand that.
You mean you think he should have said to you, you have permission to drive my truck unless you blotto drunk?
Your Honor, there was never a point in time where that drinking and driving was an issue.
Well, it was an issue when you wrecked his truck.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. 28-year-old Tom Heasley says while on a camping trip with his buddies, Clark Jackson wrecked his truck.
You destroyed his truck. Were you able to salvage any part of it?
None of all the salvage fees went for the tow fee, $1,000 to have it towed out of the canyon. Where
And
Clark
you had no
parked it.
insurance?
Just minimal insurance.
What kind of, what's minimal? Look at me, sir.
Okay.
What kind of minimal insurance?
Just theft and collision.
Did your insurance pay
No,
anything
not-
towards the car,
not
is
a
what I
dime.
want to know.
Not a dime. I did not receive a dime.
What was your blood alcohol on that day, sir?
Ma'am, it was .14.
So did you plead guilty to DUI?
I am in the process, yes.
Okay. Easy. Don't drink and drive.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you're 22 years old and old enough to get behind the wheel of a car, that you have to know. Don't blame anybody else. It's nobody else's fault but yours. You get behind the wheel of a car and you're drunk, you're just lucky you didn't kill yourself or, more importantly, somebody else.
Yes,
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back over to you right now.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I thought I had pretty good friends for a minute. I wanted to try and pay for the truck to salvage our friendship, but as you can tell, it wasn't possible. I had a really good friend over here, Jesse Mobley, basically ruined my life.
Please.
33-year-old construction supervisor Mark Hovey wants his engagement ring back from the mother of his child, 31-year-old Jacqueline Casaus. Jacqueline says the ring was a Mother's Day gift.
Order, all rise.
Yeah, this is case number 166 on the calendar in the matter of Hovey versus Casaus. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, sir, have a seat.
I'm trying to figure out the chronology in this case, Mr. Hovey. You and the defendant have a child together.
Right.
How old is that child?
She's 4.
Child is 4.
Mm-hmm.
But according to your complaint, 2 years ago, you decided to become engaged to the defendant.
Right.
It's putting things in sort of.
Mm-hmm.
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 And that didn't work out. You broke up. She kept the engagement ring.
Right.
1996, 1997, and 1998.
Mm-hmm.
You want the engagement ring back or the money for it?
Right, I always have.
She says she turned it in for the money.
Yes, I did.
When did you do that?
About 17 days after he gave it to me.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because he had a gentleman come to my work and serve me with paternity papers for my daughter to prove that he was her father. And I called him and told him that I had no money. I was going to have to get a lawyer to represent myself in court. And the only thing I had of value was the ring. So since he was making me take him to court, I was going to take the ring back for the money.
Well, what I find interesting are 2 things. I read your answer, and in your answer you say that this was not an engagement ring, but a Mother's Day present. So if it was a Mother's Day present, certainly, you know, you're not entitled to the ring back. What makes you think this was a Mother's Day present?
We bought it on Mother's Day. It was with a Mother's Day card. I also got these Mother's Day phone cards that came with the present. And my son and my daughter were both with us the day we bought it. And we also bought Mother's Day presents for his mother at the same time.
What did the ring look like?
It was a regular engagement, like a wedding set. But he never said, will you marry me? Here's, you know, an engagement ring. We went to his grandmother's house after that to give the presents that he had bought for their Mother's Day. And I showed it to everybody as my Mother's Day present.
That's not correct.
Well, did you make plans to get married after you gave her the ring, sir?
We never had a date set. At the time that I gave it to her,
Well, you didn't have a date set when your daughter was born either.
Right, I know, but we never set a date because we were still going up and down at the time.
What do you mean you were still going up and down at the time?
As far as our relationship was going up and down.
You mean even when you bought this ring?
Exactly.
Well, then what'd you buy the ring for?
Hopefully it would mean something because I think she was having a problem because I never gave her an engagement ring, and she was having a problem with us not getting a for sure deal on us even being together.
Well, do you understand why he brought this paternity suit?
He said his lawyer told him that that was the first step.
His lawyer is absolutely correct. Did you explain to her why, at that time, you filed this paternity case?
Yes, I did.
What did you tell her?
I told her that I had started dating other people when she had moved out of the house. At that point, I figured the engagement was over.
that
At that
was-
time,
Is that what gave you the clue?
yeah.
When you started dating other people?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I had told her that we needed to see I needed to have some type of visitation because she would cut my daughter, and I was raising her son also as my own. And sometimes she'd just cut me off of seeing him. So I wanted something in from the court saying that I could see her at any time. I mean, during the visitation times.
And you couldn't agree on that?
No, we could not.
Did you try to work out the visitation between you before you went to court?
We tried.
It
off
was
and on.
working. It was working until other people started entering the picture and trying to run the show, and then it didn't.
What do you mean other people? You mean his present wife?
Yes.
I assume that you are remarried. That's what it
Mhm.
says here. What do you mean enter the picture trying to run the show?
Mark and I were able to, he was seeing both my children and taking both of them for the visits, and he'd have them for overnight visits. Everything seemed fine. Until she came into the picture, she didn't want my son to be a part of their new family. So the kids were split up. So if the kids were to go over, only my daughter was allowed to go. So my son was left out in the cold, and it caused a lot of problems. And to this day, Mark and I cannot see eye to eye on
Mr. Hovey,
these issues.
Is there any ring of truth to that?
Somewhat. Sometimes she would let him come, sometimes she wouldn't, so he was off and on. So finally I decided he just does not need to come anymore because it wasn't good for him. That was the only reason on that.
Sad. Why is it that children are always the ones that
They're right in the
suffer in
middle of
these,
it. I understand.
these situations?
Your Honor, Mark came right out and told me that she did not want Robert over at the house because it seemed like every time he and I were feuding, Robert would go over and not be nice to her because he felt bad for me. And to this day, every time there's a visit, it's hard because he still calls Mark Dad. He thinks of Mark as his dad, and Mark does not respond in that way anymore because of her.
What was your name?
Delia Hovey.
Mrs. Hovey, you want to tell me what you perceive to be the problem with visitation?
When he did come to my house, she would tell both of them at first, don't eat her food, don't talk to her, don't talk to her. Lexi would come to me and hug me and kiss me when she first knew me. She told her, don't touch her, don't kiss her, don't look at her, don't eat their food. I cook every night for my family, and they would not eat because she would not let them eat.
How do you know that?
Because they would tell us.
They would tell you
They
what?
would tell us.
They would
My mom said, I can't eat your food.
That's a lie.
From one day to the next, that child stopped kissing me and hugging me. I love that daughter dearly. And she did love me at first, but now since her mom said, don't do this, don't do that, she doesn't, still up to this day, she doesn't hug me. She doesn't kiss me. She talks to me, I mean, just like normal, because that's all she can do. She can't do anything else.
She's lying.
And as far as
Ask her
pizza,
how
she's
many
making
times she's
comments
ever
that I
combed
could
my
make
daughter's
pizza.
hair.
I cook every single night.
Listen to me. You're supposed to try to make these kinds of separations as easy as possible for children. I assume you were angry at him. We got married shortly after you separated, is that right?
That's one of the other points. If he considered that an engagement ring he gave me, he and I were still seeing each other 2 days before they went on their first date. She moved in a week later. 2 months later, they were married. So if he was engaged to me, why is he married to her?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There's a lot of pathology here. Are you suggesting that he hit her in anger with a hockey stick?
Yes, he did, and he admitted it.
Not smart, Mr. Hovey.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mark Hovey wants the engagement ring returned from the mother of his child, Jacqueline Casaus.
Mr. Hovey, according to you, sir, you knew that this ring was returned 2 years ago.
Right.
What took you 2 years, sir?
It's just I figured that my visit, my statute of limitations was coming up in October when she returned the ring, and I wanted to see if I can get something done before that.
Something must have happened recently because you didn't pursue this matter for 2 years.
We're still in civil court also on my daughter.
Oh, so that's
because
the
she's
reason.
in contempt of court as far as me. I still don't get to see my daughter like the courts say.
So that's the reason.
That's part of the reason.
Of course, that's part of the reason. I knew there had to be something 2 years
that
later
is
for
part of
this
the reason.
for this problem to come up.
Right.
Now, what's your visitation schedule?
I get her on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 o'clock to 8, and then I get her on Saturdays from 12 noon to Sunday at 12 noon.
And what's the problem with the visitation?
Sometimes she decides whenever she just doesn't want to give her to me.
Do you go every time to pick her up?
I make a police report every time. Yes, I do. And I make a police report every time she doesn't let me see her.
What's the problem with visitation?
He's supposed to pick her up by 5, and if he doesn't pick her up by, and this is in our court papers, he has 15 minutes. If he is more than 15 minutes late, he cannot pick her up. Because at the beginning he was supposed to pick her up at 5, and sometimes he wouldn't show up till 7:30. And think because he came at 7:30, he could start his visit from there. That's just, I mean, I'm just giving you an example.
Just, Mr. Hovey, shh. This is all not new. I want to tell you something. I've heard this story 1,000 times. So because he doesn't come on time, you had put in the court order that he's got a 15-minute grace period.
So that he would try to start coming on time instead of just, his reason to me when I asked him is, why can't you come on time? He says, you have no life. You don't have anything else to do, so you could just sit there and wait for me. And I know it was a sarcastic remark, but I said, no, I am not gonna. So we had it put in the court papers, and if he picks her up at the babysitter documents what time he comes, and I told her, if he's late, call me, I will come back from work and pick her up.
Have you come late to pick up your daughter?
I've never been over 15 minutes late. If I was going to be late, I have her number to call her and let her know if I'm going to be late.
And how many times have you done that?
I have never called her once.
You made a child together when you weren't ready to make a commitment to each other, to make a life together. That was a very dumb thing to do. But you have a 4-year-old daughter, and I assume that based on the fact that you've gone to court, Mr. Hovey, to pursue your visitation, and you did so right from the beginning, you want to be a good father.
Right.
Is this your only child?
That's my only child. Well, no, I have a 4-month-old now.
Okay. But for a long time, this was your only child.
Right.
And you pay child support?
Yes, I do.
How much do you pay?
$579 a month.
Well, that's a reasonable amount of child support. And you're working too?
Yes, I am.
So, your daughter is supposed to have a father. And she's lucky because even though you're not together and you've never been married, it seems to me that he's pursuing, seeing her and wanting to maintain her in his life and vice versa. That's a very important thing. You're not supposed to do anything to interfere with that. Anything. As a matter of fact, you're supposed to put whatever bad feelings that you have about him and his present marriage and everything else, you're supposed to try to shelve that if you can for the good of your child, because you have 2 children. This gorgeous young man over here.
Thank you.
And a 4-year-old daughter, who I assume is equally as pretty. So you're not supposed to make it more difficult. You're supposed to make it easy. Now I come back to you. Because there are always shades of gray. There is some truth, I think, in what she says when she says that you have, on occasion, made a sarcastic remark. Listen,
Not that one, I have not. I have made some, yes.
you have made some, but
right,
not one.
but not that one, yeah.
All right. Well, I won't even ask you, give me an example, because I'm sure you have. So you're supposed to show nothing but respect for her, because you may not love each other anymore, but she still is the mother of your child. You're supposed to try to be nice to each other. Mr. Hovey, I am unsympathetic with regard to your request to get your money back for this ring, for several reasons. Not the least of which is that you waited 2 years to do it. You knew that she had returned the item immediately. You rested on your laurels and did nothing. And the precipitating factor in your coming to court today is this other lawsuit that's pending now. This will only exacerbate that. You're not supposed to make it hard for him to see the child. You're supposed to make it easy for him to see the child.
I don't mind him seeing her. I know she loves him. I know he loves her. But when she comes home, when she's got bruises on her or she's not combed, we have a thing on that right now because he hit her with a hockey stick when she was at his house.
Just a second. Are you suggesting that he hit her in anger with a hockey stick?
Yes, he did, and he admitted it. We have court papers. The police were called in. Child Services.
Just a second. Who called the police in?
I did.
Of course you did.
That has been investigated, and that has been closed.
Actually, her doctor called them when I took her to the doctor. The doctor's the one that called because she said she cannot let that pass.
Just a second. What did this bruise look like, madam?
In the words of the doctor, it was about as...
No, you tell me.
It was...
A black and blue mark?
Yes, about as big as a silver dollar or a $50.
And for that black and blue mark, you took her to a doctor?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because she came home crying, telling me that her dad had hit her with a hockey stick.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You knew that that was going to happen. That's the exact reason you went to the doctor.
And I
because
do
you
it
didn't
again.
go to the doctor, madam, because you were concerned for the child's welfare, that she was injured in some way. You took the child there to document something.
Closed captioning sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Mark Hovey wants the ring or the money from former live-in lover and mother of his child, Jacqueline Cassaus.
There's a lot of pathology here. Did you hit your daughter in anger with a hockey stick?
I had hit her. I had tapped her on the side right here. We were playing, and she had hit me in the back of the head with the hockey stick. And I grabbed the stick from her, and I went like that. I went like that. It didn't. The bruise didn't. It wasn't even a bruise. If she did bruise, I will take full responsibility for it.
Okay. So what you're telling me is she hit you in the head, and you took it, and you said, "Don't do that," and you went like this.
Right, and I hit her.
Not smart, Mr. Hovey.
Right.
Not smart.
I understand.
All right.
But it was investigated, and it was closed.
I assume that it was because you still have your visitation.
Yes, sir.
All right. Lighten up. Don't look for excuses.
I don't look for
Yeah,
excuses.
sure you do.
No. When it
Listen,
comes to my
put your hand
kids,
down. You're not supposed to get involved in this thing.
Yeah.
Not supposed to get involved.
When it comes to my kids, they're all he and I have. If he's not watching out for them, I have to watch out for them. Just
Madam,
like if they were at his
let me
house.
tell you something. He acted not too smart by hitting his child with a hockey stick. That didn't require you taking the child to a doctor for a black and blue mark that was the size of a silver dollar. Doctor getting involved, as the doctor has to, and making a report to special services. You knew that that was going to happen. That's the exact reason you went to the doctor.
And I
because
do
you
it
didn't
again.
go to the doctor, madam, because you were concerned for the child's welfare, that she was injured in some way. You took the child there to document something.
That's right, and I do it again.
Of course you did.
And I'll do it again if it happens
Well, then,
again.
I want to tell you something. Then what you're doing is you're hurting your child, and there is absolutely nothing that I can do. But I will tell you, if he made a mistake, and he certainly did, and I just told him he made a mistake, it would be no different from if your daughter was crossing the street, and you, instead of going out there and trying to talk, don't cross the street because there may be cars coming, you grab her by the arm, and you pull her back, and you dislocate her arm by accident. And it's the time that he has the child for visitation. And he says, what happened to her arm? And you explain the problem. He says, this is good. I'm going to take the child to the doctor, and I'm going to start setting up broken arm, splinter in the finger, a cut on the side, all because of her negligence. That's what you're doing. I want you to think, if the two of you were living together and this happened, you would not have taken the child to a doctor over a little black and blue mark. You may have had an argument with him.
That's right.
But you wouldn't have rushed the child for emergency treatment.
It
The
wasn't
reason you
emergency
did it
treatment.
is because you are not together anymore. That's why you did it.
Well.
And it's wrong. 100% wrong. I'm here to tell you that it's wrong. You can nitpick to an extent where it will make it so difficult for him that he'll say, listen, it's just not worth it, and it's interfering with my life. Maybe that's what you want, and then you can tell your daughter that she has a miserable father and her father doesn't want to see her.
No, I don't
Maybe
tell
that's
her
what
that.
you want.
She'll learn that on her own.
Or you just want. No, she won't. Listen, you have a passive-aggressive personality. She won't learn that on her own unless you teach her.
No.
It's a mistake for a child to think, my daddy's a bum. He doesn't treat me well. He doesn't take care of me. That's what you would like. You would like to say, my mommy's wonderful and my daddy's a bum. And if you think that that's a good idea, you're going to have a child who will perhaps love you as she gets older and perhaps resent you once she develops a mind of her own, and resent you forever. Choice is yours.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Mr. Hovey, I'm not going to exacerbate this matter any further by ordering her to pay you money for this ring. We understand each other?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Your lawsuit's dismissed.
Your
I
Honor,
just excuse you may step out.
What?
I had a countersuit on
For
them.
what?
There's 2 quilts that belong to my children that I had wanted to get back, and he was supposed to bring them today to give them back, and he didn't.
Oh, I was.
Just a second.
Well,
Just a second.
that's
Do you know
what
what
they told
blanket
me.
she... Listen to me, Mr. Hovey. Do you know what
I know
blanket
what
she
blanket
said?
she's talking about.
What blanket is she
One
talking
blanket she's talking about. The other day she saw my kid, my 4-month-old, in it, and it's a Tweety Bird blanket. She told me, she says, Mark, can I get that back whenever he's done with it? She can have it back. I told her that.
Just
she put
a
it in
second.
She put it in
So you said fine.
That's right. Then
What's
the
the
next
other one?
The next one is a blanket, a quilted blanket that we bought at an auction that I bought. I bought with a credit card, and it was from him. It's got his handprint on it. I intend to give that to Robert later on. I've got lots of things of Robert.
Why don't you give it to him now?
He can have it now.
You want your blanket back with your handprint?
Yes,
When are you going to get it to him?
As soon as possible.
ASAP
When I get
means
back.
within a couple of days?
Exactly.
Terrific. Thanks. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back go to your right, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I knew he wasn't going to win. It was a present, and that's what I intended it as, so I'm happy.
I was trying to get along with her, and I should have filed earlier.
Parties on Atkinson versus Cope. Step forward, please.
17-year-old Kelly Atkinson says she started dating Daniel Cope when she was only 15. Now broken up, she's suing him for money he took when they were lovers.
Order. All rise. Quiet, please.
Judges number 278 on the calendar in the matter of Atkinson versus Cope. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
How old are you?
25.
Did you know how old she was when you started to date her?
Yes.
How old was she?
15.
And you were 23?
Yes, ma'am.
That's very dumb.
It's a lesson well learned.
Because in addition to everything else, it's a felony. Right?
Yes.
Now, Miss Atkinson, this is your mother?
Mm-hmm.
You're 17 now.
Yes, I am.
So this suit was really filed by you on behalf of your daughter. You say that you loaned him money.
Loaned him $2,000.
For what?
Repairs on his pickup truck. Bills that I paid for him.
Like what?
Gas and power. Very, very, very often, he would take me to the bank to get $20 out so he could get back and forth to work for a night. I have a copy of all my bank receipts for the time that we were dating.
Where did you meet him?
He is an old friend of mine's boyfriend's brother.
Yeah.
And we were just introduced one day, and we were friends for about 5 months, and then it went from there.
Did your mother know that you were dating him?
Yes, she did.
Did you think it was a good idea?
He wasn't like a normal 23-year-old. He was more like a 19-year-old. Seemed, and they were friends first.
That's not unusual. So he's 23 going on 19. And your daughter was 15 going on 16.
Yeah.
So you didn't think it was so terrible. Did you know that they were intimate?
Not for a long time, no.
So you took some money from her?
The loan was offered to me. What I did borrow from her, yes. Didn't take.
Well, tell me.
It was offered.
Right. And you took it?
It was offered
It was offered several times, and I did take it. Yes, I borrowed, yes.
Why?
Not $2,000.
How much?
$800.
Well, $800 in one lump sum.
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about little bits at a time.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
All the withdrawals listed on there, there's only, I think, one deposit that I made for my birthday on April 8th. All the rest of the withdrawals were not from me. not for me personally using the money, but from him using the money.
You mean using it to go out on a date, maybe?
No, to take it and pay his bills, or to, for instance, I bought him a differential. He needed a differential. I loaned him the $150 as a deposit down on the differential for his...
Does that sound familiar?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I've been self-sufficient since I was 18 years old. I've paid all my bills. No. And no, she did not pay no gas, power, or electric bill. She loaned me, which was offered, $800, which I paid back. Now, I don't know where she comes up with this, no.
How much did you have in this account when you started dating?
To start out with, $2,200.
And prior to dating him, had you taken any money out of that account?
No, that account was saved up. I've been saving that money since I was 6 years old to go and buy a car when I was 16 or to go to college.
So what you're telling me is there were no withdrawals made from that account?
None. Zero.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Step up here, please, with your daughter. When did you find out that she was helping him out with money?
The first time I found out about it was his ex-girlfriend left a message on our answering machine telling Kelly that she would never get her $2,000 back, and a few other things she left on. And that was the first time I realized, uh-oh, she's really done it. She's given him some money. And I was afraid she wasn't going to get it back.
And when Mom confronted me, I did lie to her because I was trying to protect him.
When did you break up with him?
When? At the end of August.
Why?
He put his boot through the window of my parents' truck, kicked me in the face with it.
Why?
Lots of fights. We were in the middle of another fight, and it ended up in a domestic dispute.
Did you call the police?
Yes, I did.
In addition to the $2,000 that you say you took out of your account and gave to him, you're suing for $5,000 and the other for medical bills. For what?
During the time that we were together, I contracted a venereal disease, a virus called HPV. There's a letter from my doctor and bills, my medical bills for the last year.
Did you have sexual relations with anyone other than him during this period of time?
No.
What are you laughing about? Why is that a funny question?
No? Just like that? No? No.
Well, if you have some information that she had sexual relations with somebody else, I'll hear you, sir.
She had a sexual relationship with a very close friend of mine.
When?
When? During the time that we were dating. Okay? The money that she loaned me, the $800, okay, yes, I did pay back. This was a doorway to open the account, and once the money had started being removed, the $800 that was loaned to me, then she went ahead and removed more money. Okay, whenever I caught up to this, and I confronted her about this, you know, spending money to go here, go there, I said, Kelly, you can't do that. That's not right.
Show me proof that you paid back the $800.
Show me proof that I borrowed $2,000.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When you fool around with jailbait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir.
And later today...
You're not a man. You're a little weasel.
Because
your whole family.
Just go. Put him away for 20 years. So.
You know what? You're all going to jail.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Cope, for money he took when they were dating. She also claims Daniel gave her a sexually transmitted disease and wants him to pay for her medical bills.
Now, you answered one question that I posed to you, sir, with a different answer. I asked you how you knew that she was having sexual relations with somebody else at the same time she was having sexual relations with you. And you are telling me about $800.
How do I know?
Yes.
Because I drove over to my buddy's house. That's where she'd done spent the night instead of over at my house like she told her mother.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I caught them.
You caught them what?
I caught them in the house. Half dressed.
Does that sound familiar to you?
No, it does not.
Well, would you tell me what he's talking about if you
I
know?
have no idea.
Well, tell me about it, sir.
What do you want to know about it?
She was supposed to be spending the night with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
And?
And?
She wasn't there?
She was not there.
So you went looking for her?
I went looking for her, yes.
Well, I'm making this very easy for you.
Well, thank you.
Good. How much are your medical bills?
So far out of pocket is $895. And I'm going to need many more.
Well, you know, you're partially responsible, madam. So's your mother. In my judgment. You said it. He was 23, going on 19. Probably more like 15. So, he's no genius. Your daughter is 15, going on 16, and clearly she's no genius. You're supposed to be smart enough to put your foot down and say, I don't want you to see this guy because he's too old for you, and I don't think it's appropriate at your age. At age 15, to be dating somebody who's 23 is not appropriate. Maybe when you're 30 and he's 38, it's a different story. But right now, it's not appropriate. That's your job as a mother.
Okay, now whenever Mom did find out about his age and how much we were hanging out together, I was lying to her, again, to try to protect him.
Your mother still says she knew very well that you were dating him and that she gave her tacit approval because she felt that he was immature enough to be almost a contemporary of yours.
And I trusted
Which is
him.
a kind way of saying it.
Very kind.
Very kind. So you bear part of this responsibility. You know. Have you had yourself tested, sir?
I had myself tested, yes.
Good. Do you have the results of the test?
I have what they mail me is a card that says you're okay, fine, that you don't need to call us, you don't need to contact us, that you don't need to come in.
Let me see.
Okay, this does not say nothing, but it's a mailer, all right?
Well, it doesn't say anything. What are you giving it to me for?
That's the only thing that I do have. Okay, if otherwise I'd have been notified, say, you know, I'd have gotten a phone call saying, come in, we need to discuss this.
What made you go here for blood tests, sir?
Because I started a new relationship and I wanted to get tested. I wanted to make sure that, you know, before I have an intimate relationship with anybody, that I do not have a problem.
Well, this is interesting because this was just done in October.
Yes, ma'am, I have a new relationship.
I heard that already. You sound like a broken record. But you stopped seeing her in August, right?
A year ago.
A year
A
ago.
year ago.
Right.
Right, so this doesn't tell me anything because I don't know whether you were tested a year ago and were treated during the course of that year for anything. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She'd been having sex for long before I come around.
And later today,
You're a lying scumbag. Your whole family is that way. Your dad's constantly bails you out. Your whole family is that way.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Atkinson is suing her former boyfriend, Daniel Cope, claiming he gave her a sexually transmitted disease. Daniel says he knows nothing about it.
Mr. Cope, nobody is blameless in this situation. Unfortunately, you are the legal adult and she is the legal minor. And when you fool around with what we used to call, when I was a child, jailbait, you sort of accept the consequences of that, sir. You took out this money. This was your money supposedly for a car,
For
correct?
a car or college, whichever I decided that was more important at the time.
And so far you have medical bills in the amount of $895. I'm giving you a judgment in the amount of $2,895. I'm saying the following to you. You started off your life wrong. You're supposed to be smarter.
Mm-hmm.
You're 17 years old. Your mother is supposed to be smarter. Your mother is supposed to be protective. And as far as I'm concerned, this 15-year-old shouldn't have unfettered control over a substantial bank account. It's her money, but she's still a kid.
Right.
Fortunately, what was coming out wasn't money to buy drugs or other things, but it could have been. So you gotta be very, very careful and very vigilant as a parent these days. I assume your new girlfriend is over the age of 18.
Yes.
Great. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back there to your right, please.
And I thought maybe they'd be good for each other. Maybe she'd help him grow up a little bit, and he'd help her grow up a little bit.
And now the next case.
Party's on Lewis versus Lewis. Step forward, please.
Secretary Royce Lewis is suing her 19-year-old stepson, Daniel Lewis, for money she loaned him to buy a stereo when he was 16.
Okay, so that we understand who the cast of characters are in this case, this is your stepson.
Yes.
This is your biological son.
Yes.
Are you still married to his father?
Separated.
Married but separated.
Right.
Well, a couple of years ago, while you were probably all living together, correct?
Yes.
According to this, you made a loan to these two boys.
Yes.
To go out and buy some stereo equipment. At that time, he was 16.
Yes.
And it was your agreement that when he turned 18, he would pay you back.
Yes.
Turned 18?
Yeah.
What happened?
He never paid me back. The agreement was that when he turned 18, and I didn't ask for interest or anything, and before I gave them both the money, which was cash, I said, this is with the understanding that when you each turn 18 and get your money from your trust account, that you will pay me back the money that I've loaned you. And they both said yes. I said, then go get stereos for your car.
So you got a stereo for your car.
Yes, I did.
And you got one for your car.
Correct.
When did you separate from his father?
About 2.5, maybe 3 months ago.
And it was after that that you filed this lawsuit?
Right. I told him I was going to the time we were together, and he said I couldn't because he's a pastor of a church and it's his son, and I wasn't allowed to. I said he owes me the money and he's not paying it, and you're not doing anything to get it.
Well, but the marriage was already on.
Right.
Going.
No, actually, no, it wasn't.
Well,
but
then I'm going to tell you something. If you threaten to sue your husband's son, that's a good time for marriage to start to go south.
Well, I didn't threaten immediately. I said, somehow something has to happen here. It's not right that he's getting away with all this.
Okay.
Okay. Our agreement, basically there was no agreement. She came up to, I did not ask for the money. I did not ask for anything from her. Me and James were both outside one day. She came right in front of our door. She walked down the stairs and was asking us if we had car stereos and how they worked and all this stuff. And she says, well, do you guys want to go down and get new CD players? And of course, I'm 16 years old. You know, I would love to have a new CD player for my car. So she gave us a blank check, said she told us how much we could spend. Me and James went down, got the same exact CD player. I came home, installed it in my car. Later that night, sitting in my room, she walked through the door and then told me that when I was 18, I could pay her back
That's a total lie.
because I was getting my settlement, okay?
So what did you say to her at that point?
Actually, I never said anything. I never actually said, okay, yes, I will do this, yes, I won't. But the thing is also, even if I had agreed to that, I moved up to Sacramento shortly before I turned 18. When I turned 18, I never heard nothing. To this very day, she has never verbally asked me for that money.
That is a total lie. His dad has talked to him.
Not since.
Not talking about his dad. He said it's you.
My dad left her 2 months ago, and that is when this is happening. And she's suing 4 of my dad's friends.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have fun in jail because that's where you're going.
Miss Lewis, a minor cannot make a contract. When he was 16 years old, he could not have entered into a contract, either oral or written, with you for anything. And there are times when, if you enter into an agreement when you're a minor, and if you ratify it later when you turn 18 or 21, depending upon the jurisdiction, then it can become enforceable. But he did not do that. He did not ratify it when he became 18. You cannot make a contract with a minor who is 16 and expect it to be enforced in a court. This lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. That's back.
You got my case next, buddy.
Yeah, I've already reported you to Wells Fargo.
I really
Bank for
don't
the
care.
TQ for it.
I really don't care.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
You wouldn't have even had that money if it wasn't for me.
I got
said
it
you will
because
pay.
your son can't
you
drive and got in a car accident.
Shut up, you.
Why can't you be a man and pay the money
you
back?
You lied to your dad.
Because you can't hold a job.
Yes, you lied to your dad. You said you didn't get the money out of the trust account. I called
Okay,
the bank.
no,
You got it.
yeah,
Then
I
you
did
lied
get it.
and said,
The only thing was
then
I got
lied.
it 3 months after I turned 18 because I couldn't. But what
because
does that
you were
matter?
too stupid to figure out how to
What
get
does
it
that
on your
matter?
own. I know you can't do contracts with minors. I'm not stupid.
Concepcion, step forward, please.
Bail bondsman Gene Wisenand claims Frank and Eleanor Concepcion owe him bail money and that Frank bit his finger when he tried to arrest him.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please.
Judge, this is number 277 on the calendar in the matter of Wisenand versus Concepcion. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Mr. Wisenand, you are a bail bondsman.
Yes, ma'am.
This lady came to you because her husband, I suppose that's you.
Yes.
Correct? Was arrested.
She actually, Maria is my subagent who actually wrote the bond.
You came to her.
Well, I called her.
Because your husband was in jail. What was he arrested for?
For possession of stolen property.
Possession of stolen property is what he was arrested for. He was being held on how much bail?
$25,000.
$25,000.
There's one other charge there, Your Honor. It was PC 273.5, which is domestic violence.
So possession of stolen property and beating up his wife.
Actually, I believe it was his sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law. Because that's heavy bail, $25,000. Anyway, you charge 10%.
That is correct.
And you agreed to post the bail for him.
Yes, ma'am.
So he could get out of jail, right?
Right.
That was a nice thing for them to do.
It's her job.
Your fee, that's his job. For which he gets what?
For which he gets 10%.
Paid.
Right. Gets paid.
And at the time your wife came in, all she had was $1,300. But they agreed to go ahead and post the bail anyway.
Right.
Correct. And there was an agreement, and what was the agreement about the rest of the bail, sir?
It was a signed promissory note to have the remaining balance of $1,300 paid in full by May 2nd.
And how many days after that?
That was actually 4 days after the bond was posted, and that was a date that was agreed upon by Maria, the agent writing the bail, and Eleanor.
May I see it, please? So, Miss Concepcion, you signed this promissory note to come in 4 days later and post the rest of the bail. Right?
Right.
Did you?
I tried. That I didn't. No.
You didn't?
No.
And you, sir, got out of jail.
Yes.
Did you go in and post the money?
No, I didn't. I told her, directly, I told her, I said, there's no possible way that I'm going to be able to have that money for you. Now, is there a way that we can make arrangements for the balance? Payments such as, $200 a month.
Just a second. These aren't your relatives. They're in business.
But, Your Honor, she told me that if I had any problems making the payments, she could make arrangements.
Correct. But when I had also spoken to her and we did the promissory note, I told her to tell me the date that she can come up with this money. So I gave her an option to either pay it off in full or do payments. And she told me that she could come up with the money by May 2nd, which was a couple days later.
Okay. Now listen. The most important thing for you was to get your husband out of jail.
Yeah.
You signed this piece of paper that promised that you would make the payment to the bail bondsman, who stands to lose all the money, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Not just this little bit of money, but $25,000.
That is correct.
Because you are ensuring that he's going to show up and do the right thing.
Yes, ma'am.
That's his business. Okay. So you got what you needed momentarily, which was to get out of jail. You promised whatever you had to promise, and then you didn't pay it. How many times have you been arrested? Can't try to count on one hand.
No.
How many
I haven't been
times?
arrested that many times.
So you know the drill?
Not really.
Are you sure you do? How old are you?
37.
You've been arrested more than 3 times, sir? Make sure you tell me the truth.
Actually about 3 times.
Yeah, the money issue was actually secondary on...
I know.
Okay.
Because your lawsuit says that he didn't show up.
To sign the paperwork, that is correct.
To sign the paperwork, and he was supposed to.
There's also
That's
another.
this other form.
Can I see that, please?
His wife signed. Sign that.
Now, you signed this paper agreeing that you would produce your husband in their office within 48 hours of his release to sign the remainder of the paperwork. Right?
Right. But she told me, because I didn't have the money, she told me not to go in.
Did you ever tell her not to come in?
No.
Baloney! Baloney! She never told you not to bring him in to sign the rest of the paperwork? Paperwork
that's
is
what happened.
what he has to have.
When I spoke to her, why wouldn't she tell me this? She told me she
Just a second, sir. Were you told by your wife that you had to go in within 2 days to sign some paperwork?
No.
Baloney. Baloney. You
I
know,
don't think
there's a
so.
certain common sense, sir. You've been in jail before, you've been arrested before, you've had bond posted before. You know the drill.
She told me about taking a picture, yes, okay.
Right.
But like I said, I
Just a
spoke
second.
to this woman
Yeah.
personally.
Your wife told you that you had to go in and sign some paperwork and have your picture taken. So the answer is yes. Right?
Picture taken, yes.
Did you go?
Did we don't know?
No, because we didn't have the money.
This says when you're released within 48 hours, you have to come to his office. Is that what it says?
Correct.
It is in English. Clear as a bell. So don't tell me
I
about going to
understand
court
that.
the
No,
next
I
day.
understand that, but she told us not to come in because
There was
we
a lot
making
of
a trip
things
for
said
nothing.
verbally.
I would call her and she would tell me she would come in the next day. There was no one, she never ever came in. I kept calling, telling me that her check or whatever, for whatever which reasons, she didn't have the money. And I told her, okay, if you don't have the money, come in and we can make payment
You
arrangements.
told me
but
you were
he
gonna
needs
arrest
to
me.
Come in.
Hey.
If the paper on the agreement said, on that agreement that we just handed to you, said if he didn't come in within 48 hours, then we could arrest him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's trying to put his finger in my eye. Instinct, I bite on that finger.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bail bondsman Gene Wisenant says Frank Concepcion owes him bail money. When Gene went to collect, Frank says there was an altercation over a gun.
Tell me what happened when you went to arrest him.
Here we go.
There were 2 times. The first night was on a Wednesday, the 14th, I believe. I went to the mother-in-law's house, which was listed as his residential address. I went there, I saw Eleanor, and I saw his mother-in-law, and a number of other people there. I went through the house, he wasn't there. Gave Eleanor and her mother my business cards with instructions to have Frank call me when he came back in.
You're a liar, man.
Shh. Hey, I want you to be quiet, sir. Don't talk to him. You're going to have a chance to speak. How much after you posted the bail for him did you go to effectuate the arrest?
About 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks.
Okay. And in that 2.5 to 3 weeks' time, had he come in to make any payment whatsoever?
No, ma'am. As a matter of
Had
fact,
his wife come in to make any payment whatsoever?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So
Nor
you
did
went to arrest him. And tell me what happened when you got there.
Got to the house. We were watching the house. Maria was the driver. I was going to effect the arrest. I had Maria move the car. I was standing in the shadow next to the side of the house when Maria pulled to the light to square the block and come back on a different location. Frank's, as I find out later, it was Frank's younger brother comes out, sees her pull away, yells something out. Frank goes running across the street, out to the front door, across the street to his parked car. That is correct. I yelled out his name. I yelled his name again and ordered him to stop. He turned around, looked over his shoulder at me, ran back towards the house. I stopped him in the driveway, side of the house in the side driveway. We rolled to the ground. As we were rolling, I felt his hand go for my gun. I clamped his hand. At that point, I basically gave up on the encounter. My whole goal, my whole purpose in life at that point was to hold the gun in the holster, not allow the gun to get out. I had his left hand clamped to my gun and my gun pressed down in the holster. He was able to straddle my body, get his right hand around my throat.
Tell the truth now.
I'm going to throw you out of the courtroom. Take your hands out of your pockets and be quiet. You're going to have your opportunity, sir, to tell me your version of the story. How many times do I have to tell you that?
Okay, continue.
He's got his hand on my throat and his other hand on my gun. I put my hand up to his head. I can still feel the ridge of his eye socket under my thumb with the intention of rolling my thumb in. I rolled my hand down across his face to rock his head back and force him off of me. When my hand came down across his face, he clamped down on my left index finger. Still have a scar on each side. He clamped down. I felt his jaw rake across it. His brother then got up to my right side. I felt his brother pry at my hand on the gun, and either I hit him with my elbow or I kneed him with my knee.
Must be his auntie.
My hand got free at that point.
Do me a favor. Would you stand behind him? Because I want to get this case over with, so I don't want to throw him out of the courtroom. But maybe your presence is there, Officer Byrd, will remind him to keep his mouth shut until it's his turn.
I don't think so.
Go ahead.
When he yelled out, I was able to get my hand free. I pried his hand off my throat. At that point, I guess he felt he was losing control. He tried to stand up. Because I was holding both of his hands, he pulled me up as well. His brother put up both his hands on my chest and pushed me back to the ground, struck me, trying to hit my groin missing. Frank got up, took 2 or 3 steps. I either pushed or punched his brother again to get him off of me. Frank took a step back and yelled, "Don't hit my brother." I was able to get up. Frank ran to his car across the street. Maria was parked in the middle of the street on the phone with the local police department. She witnessed the whole thing. Frank got away that night, and then I went straight from there. Police officer responded about 10 or 15 minutes later, took a report, and I went directly to the emergency room to get medical care for my finger.
So the remainder of your lawsuit is for the bite?
The bite, yes, ma'am.
Okay, now it's your turn.
Okay, first of all, we talked on the phone, and this is after 2 weeks. We spoke on the phone. I have not yet even spoke to this man. I spoke to her, and her and my wife were talking. We agreed to come down to their office at that evening. The call was about 4 o'clock. We agreed to be there about 8 o'clock. I left the house. I told my wife, I said, we'll go down there, meet me down there at 8 o'clock. I have to go to my father's and run some errands, okay, for my father. Okay, this was at my father's place. Okay, he came, I went outside. I was leaving after I ran the errands for my father, okay. This was nighttime already, it was dark. I go to my car, it was parked across the street, okay. As I'm going across the street, it's dark too, there's not many lights out there. Now, he's hiding behind a bush, okay? All of a sudden, I'm walking across the street, I'm in the middle of the street, and somebody says, "Hold it. You move it, I'll shoot." He got his .357 out, pointing right at me, okay? And I look at him, I don't know who he is. He never identified himself at all, okay? I don't know who the heck, he could be trying to rob me, you know? I run, I take off. As I'm running back towards my place, okay, the garage, I turn around, because he's right behind me, I turn around and smack him one. Okay, then I pick him up and I throw him
body slam him on my garage. Okay, at this point, he's going for his gun again. Now, when he goes for his gun, I put my elbow up in his throat, okay, and I'm grabbing for the gun, because I'm going to take it from him before he shoots me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're wrong about that.
I'm wrong. I was wrong once in
Your Honor,
1947.
You're wrong again in 1998.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bail bondsman Gene Wisenant says Frank Concepcion tried to jump bail. When he tried to collect, an altercation ensued.
Just tell me your version of what happened that day.
This man's going for his gun like it was the thing to do, like he's some super cop or something. You ain't about nothing, though. But I'm going to tell you, okay, as I'm going for his gun. I'm going for his gun, all right? And this time he's got, like he said, he's trying to put his finger in my eyes. Instinct, I bite on that finger, all right? Then I pull the gun out from his holster and toss it in the bush. Now, I don't want some accident to happen because this guy's acting like a fool out. Would just pull out his gun, you know, like he thinks he can do this. I haven't jumped bail. I haven't missed my court date. I haven't even had my court date yet. And he's coming at me with a gun?
Okay. Now, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. You were running errands for your father, and you were supposed to be at his office. Shut up! Just pay attention to me.
Okay.
You were supposed to be at his office at 8 o'clock. That was the plan. That's what you told me, correct?
Right, correct.
Did you go to his office at 8 o'clock? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
Right. Because when he came to your house, it was after 8 o'clock, correct?
No, it was before 8
What
o'clock.
time?
Before.
What time?
7:30, 20 till.
But he had came to
Just
the
a
house
second.
before
Just
me.
a second. Hey.
I was there.
Just answer my... Listen
was
to me.
there.
Listen to me. Truth of the matter is the two of you had absolutely no intention of going to his office
Yes,
at 8
I
o'clock.
did. I was going.
Yeah,
It only takes 15 minutes to get there.
Oh, baloney.
They had no intentions of meeting us at their office.
It was all set up.
Listen to me. It may have been a setup, but you had no intention of going there, paying the money, and having your picture taken, and filling out the rest of the
paying
paper.
money. It wasn't about paying money.
It's
It
about
was
making
about
a
signing
contract.
a contract to pay $200 a month.
Right.
All right.
For the rebalance.
Okay,
of the
let's go. Let's finish up that. And let me get to the next thing that's troubling me about your version of this story, sir. When you first started to tell me the story, you told me he was hiding in the bushes, which means that you saw him hiding in the bushes.
No.
And, well, then how did you know he was hiding in the bushes?
Because I crossed the street and he said, "Hold it, move and I'll shoot." That's when I looked and he
okay.
was hiding in the bushes.
I see. So you saw him hiding in the bushes. What did you say no for? You saw him hiding in the bushes, right?
Okay.
Then you just went through a whole story about where does he come off taking out his gun. It's only a bail, and I hadn't missed my court date. Isn't that what you just told me?
That's correct.
Right. Just a minute. But then at the beginning of the story that you were telling me you thought he was a robber. There to rob you. How could he be a robber and a bail bondsman at the same time?
He never identified himself. I told you. You're not listening to me.
No, I'm listening to you, sir.
No, I told you he did not identify himself. He never had.
You said to me, where does he come off pulling a gun, a .357 Magnum on me, as a bail bondsman?
I'm speaking after the fact already, okay?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen, I've heard both stories. A, you owe him the money for the bail, because that's what you promised, madam, to pay him. That's the written... Stand closer to him.
Stand as close as you want, brother.
That's what you promised. That's what you agreed. You agreed to come in and pay $1,200, right?
Right.
So that's what you owe him. And what I am finding, based upon common sense is that he got out of jail and he said, let him come find me.
No,
That-
you're wrong.
Sure.
You're wrong
Didn't
about
come
that.
in. I'm wrong. I was wrong once in
Your Honor,
1947.
You're wrong
But
again
since
in
1947, I didn't. You are suing, sir, for assault. It's
Yes,
clear
sir.
to me from his own version of what happened that he knew exactly who you are when you stopped him, that he was avoiding you, that the family was avoiding you, and that you were effectuating a lawful arrest in order to secure your bail, because it was now 2.5 to 3 weeks, and the person for whom you had posted bail failed to come in to complete the necessary paperwork and failed to keep that part of the agreement that provided for the remainder of the 10% of the bail. So you had an absolute right to go in and effectuate an arrest under the laws in this jurisdiction, and you were assaulted. And I believe that he knew who you were, that what he should have done was stop immediately. He did not do that. Based upon his own statement.
Do you believe he identified himself?
I'm not here to answer your questions. You answer my questions. Based upon his own statement, he turned around and struck you before you struck him. He said that, not you. He says he turned around and assaulted you. So I'm granting you your judgment for $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
You come at me.
Yeah, keep smiling like that.
Yeah, you keep smiling, okay?
Because you know it's wrong what you did,
I'll
okay?
drop you again.
You know it's wrong. Especially in front of the kids, did that stuff.
You pull out a gun in front of my kids. Sucker, I'll beat you, all right? Don't. You're lucky I let you go, okay? You're lucky. You're lucky I didn't pistol whip you with your own gun.
Beers versus Murphy. Step forward, please.
40-year-old Terry Beers says her daughter, Amy Murphy, broke her eyeglasses during a fight over 2 fish tanks.
Order. All rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 270 on the calendar in the matter of Beers versus Murphy. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, sir.
It's your daughter.
Yes.
Your complaint alleges that your daughter broke your glasses during an altercation that you were having.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to get to the reason why you would sue her for the damage to your glasses, for the new glasses, in a minute. I have a countersuit by you for the destruction of a fish tank and fish and the filter and everything else against your mother. I think you're probably suing the wrong person, because I don't think she destroyed your fish tank, right?
Right.
So let's start at the beginning. How did this tragedy start?
Amy had written to me in May and asked to come and live with us. They wanted to relocate from Vermont.
Who's they?
Amy and Jeff and my grandchildren.
Jeff?
Yes.
And so I allowed them to come in, and we were all getting along just fine, and then Amy decided that she was no longer going to be associated with Jeff, so she kicked him out of my house. Well, 2 weeks went by, and he said that he wasn't going to support his grandchildren, and with my rising utility bills, I asked him to move those fish out of my house.
Okay, we sort of missed a step. When they moved in not only with their children.
Yes.
But with a fish tank.
Big fish tanks.
How big?
About as big as this table. One of them was, and then the other one was about this big.
Full of fish?
There were only 4 fish.
Okay. But a big tank?
Big tanks.
Okay. All right. So you decided that the electric bills were too high.
Mm-hmm.
So you told him to get his fish tank out of the house.
Just to move the fish, and I would take care of the children and Amy.
Okay. What happened? He didn't?
He didn't, no. For about 2 weeks, we all tried to get him to move those fish, and he wouldn't. And then on the night of August 3rd, Edward...
That's your boyfriend?
Yes, ma'am. Unplugged the fish tank. Both of them. Amy discovered that they were unplugged, plugged them back in. Now, I wasn't here at the time.
And the 4 fish were still alive at that point?
Yeah.
Big fish, little fish?
Big fish.
Big.
Big fish. She plugged them back in, and Edward kind of got a little upset and started throwing things out the door.
You mean the fish tank out the door?
Just the filters, the pump, and lights.
Wrong. Right?
Right.
Right. That's what I said that evening.
Wrong. That he was
If I
wrong.
would have been there, I don't think it would have happened.
So you weren't there when
No,
he
I
threw
was
it.
not.
And then your daughter came in.
Well, she called me at a friend's house to give me grief. And then I went home, and about a half an hour later, Amy comes through my bedroom door just a screeching. And we ended up in my other daughter's bedroom, and we were still screeching at each other. And she just started hitting me.
And your glasses fell off?
They broke off.
They broke off. Where did she hit you?
About the head and shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I restrained her on my daughter's bed. And we were screeching a little more. And next thing I know, she pops me in the mouth about 5 or 6 times after that.
Had you ever had that kind of physical altercation with your daughter before, Miss
No.
Beers? It was the first time?
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
My daughter's going to be 2 in December, and my son's going to be 4 in February.
So you were 16 when your son was born?
Yes.
He's the father of both children?
Yes.
You work?
Yep.
That's a start. What do you do?
Carpentry and fishing, commercial fishing.
You make a living?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Are you married?
No.
Nope.
Stand up here. Why?
I didn't want to rush Amy into a marriage situation, into a full commitment type thing. I want it to be, her decision as well as mine. And being young, I wasn't going to rush her into making a full commitment like that.
What do you think a 2- and a 4-year-old are?
A commitment.
That's a full commitment. A marriage, you can say, I made a mistake, I put erasers on pencils for a reason, I crossed this out and I move on. You can't do that with 2 children. Always amazes me. I'm not from this generation.
From a different time.
Different time. You have to make a mental commitment to get married, but not to have 2 children together.
We want to get married.
What?
But it's not that easy.
Why is it not just... Why is it not that easy?
Because we've had a rough time. I mean, it is difficult making a living, supporting 2 children, and paying all the bills myself.
Well, you've been doing it now for 4 years. Why can't you pay $15 and get a marriage license?
Did that bother you?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think you have to forgive each other.
Just sick and tired of getting hurt. I've been through too much in my life, and I have 2 kids, and I'm trying to do the best I can with them.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Terry Beers is suing her daughter, Amy Murphy, because she broke her eyeglasses during a fight over 2 fish tanks. Amy claims her mother caused the fight, and she only pushed her in self-defense.
Now, Amy.
Yes.
Did you hit your mother?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because she would not get off me, and I kept on telling her to get off me.
I wasn't on her at that time.
She was quiet.
I'm
now you have
sorry.
to be quiet, Miss Beers. She was on you how, Amy?
She pinned me down to my sister's bed, and she had me locked down.
Well, how did it start?
How did it start?
You came home, you were angry.
Yes, but...
So you walk in the door, you're angry. Tell me what happened.
I went into my mother's room, and I did ask for an explanation.
How did you ask?
I said it with a tone, but I wasn't screaming, though.
Okay.
But both of these people were drunk at this time, too. And they were screaming at me, and I just come off, and I said, you have lost rights to my grandchildren because of this. And I walked out of the room, and I started to go get some clothes for the kids. Ed came in the room first, and he was hollering at me, and he was in my face hollering at me, and he wouldn't back away from me. And my mother came in the room, and I was going to walk downstairs, and she blocked the doorway and said I wasn't going anywhere, little missy. And Ed had approached me, and my mother was in my face. Both of them were screaming at me, and these two people are drunk in front of me, screaming at me, and I was asking them nicely, and then I went to screaming to tell them to get them out of my face, and they wouldn't. I was scared.
So what did you do, Amy?
What did I do?
Amy, look at me. Look at me and tell me what you did.
I went towards the doorway, and my mother blocked the door, and I backed up, and she got in my face some more.
And you pushed her?
Yes, I pushed her away from me, but it was a push. Just get away from me, please. And she pushed me back. I pushed her, she pushed me back, and I ended up on the bed, and she pinned me there. And I kept on telling her to get off me. I was screaming. I was crying for her to get off me. I have 2 bars in my back, and she was hurting me. And through everything that I've been through in my life, this woman did not deserve to do that to me.
Everybody was hot, Amy?
Yes, everyone was. Everyone was angry.
And you were hot over a fish tank?
It wasn't really the fish tank. It was the point behind it.
Which was?
Was why he did that to my things. I mean...
Yeah, he was absolutely wrong. But what did that have to do with your mother?
What did it have to do with my mother?
Yeah,
I called her up on the phone. She was at a friend's house, and she was trying to warn me all along that Ed was going to get angry and he was going to do something, but I never knew what he was going to do. I never, immediately thought, oh, that means he's going to ruin my fish stuff. I mean, I never knew that was he's going to do it. My mom tried warning me, and that's what I was angry about. And she just stood right by his side like it was no big deal at all.
No, well, she tried to warn you, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
I certainly am not condoning him destroying property that belonged to you. Was your property?
It's mine.
It was yours.
It was a family project. The kids helped me put it together, and they were all involved in it. And
yeah, it was an absolutely wrong thing to do.
The kids saw that.
What happened to the fish?
Well, eventually they were killed. They were dumped out on the ground. The tank was smashed.
And if they waited one more day, we would have found...
Who did that?
Ed and Harold.
And I would like to submit that another reason their electricity bill was so high is because Harold put a new air conditioner in his little trailer, and they had 15 things all plugged into one outlet. Of course, your electricity bill is going to go right up.
Jeff, that's really not particularly relevant.
Okay.
Your last name, sir?
Hutchinson.
They may sue you for this fish tank.
Right.
Right? But this lawsuit is against your mother. The countersuit is against your mother's. She didn't destroy your fish tank. You had no reason to touch their property.
Exactly.
Period. I don't care what it is. First of all, sir, how long have you two been together?
5 years.
What you do, and I don't know whether you're in for the long haul or the short haul, that's up to her.
Long haul.
Long haul? Anybody that would do such a thing, that would have that kind of temper, Miss Beers, I would think about making it a long-term commitment.
Well, we're working on it.
You got to usually start with them when they're about 3.
Oh, well, I know.
Right? So he's past 3. But you see, Ed, what you did affected her relationship with her daughter. My sense is that you had a baby when you were 16, became pregnant when you were 15. There was probably a lot of turmoil in your house. Is that a fair statement? Was your mother supportive of you?
No.
Well, she let you move back into the house. How could you say that wasn't supportive?
But she threw me out when I was 16 years old, out onto the street, packed my sister's things. I had nowhere to go.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You only have one mother. She may not be perfect. And if she's made mistakes as a mother, you're supposed to forgive her. Want to give her a hug?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Terry Beers and her daughter, Amy Murphy, are in court after an argument turned violent, leaving Terry with broken eyeglasses. Amy says she was only defending herself after her mother started the fight.
How long were you estranged from your mother?
Oh, I'd say
Not very long.
Year?
no, it wasn't that long.
Okay.
They were still in Maine when my first grandchild was born.
Amy, what I'm trying to say is, you know, other people come and go in your life. That's just a reality. But you may get angry with your mother, she may get angry with you, you may have arguments, whatever. But you can usually count on your mother. Bottom line, when all is said and done, more than you can count on anybody else in your whole life. You can count on your mother. Now, what you did, sir, was interfere with that. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
I am.
Good. Then you can sit down. That was a good thing to say, so I can't even say anything to you. You are ashamed of yourself. You broke your mother's glasses.
Yes, I did.
It's a shame, Mrs. Beers, that you came to court with your daughter. I'm surprised that you did. You have a right to. Maybe what you needed was sort of a catharsis to get it all out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Maybe that's why you're here. I think you have to forgive each other. Amy, you're 20 years old. 20 years old is hardly cooked for a human being. And you may have lots of anger with your mother. She may have a lot of disappointment with you over, you know, the way things turned out. But eventually it'll work itself out if you let it. You know.
Just sick and tired of getting hurt. I've been through too much in my life, and I have 2 kids, and I'm trying to do the best I can with them.
We were trying to start over.
Yeah, it wasn't good enough.
Well, Amy, it's never too late to give it a shot with your mom. So you buy her new glasses. New glasses, what, $200? So that you have.
Thank you.
But Amy, you have 2 kids. And you have parents, Jeff?
Yeah, the kids are with my parents right now, and we haven't seen them since this happened.
Haven't seen the children?
Nope.
Why?
Because I've been busy every day working, and we really haven't been able to afford to go back and forth from Vermont, and we want our kids back as soon as we can.
So
and
they're
now
living
we
with
have
your
a stable
parents?
environment, yes.
So they're living with your parents?
Yeah, they're in their custody. I place custody of the children with my parents.
It's the safest thing to do for them.
At the time, that wasn't what it was. It was to hurt you.
I don't
This
understand.
is what Amy came home and told me, that he was taking the kids away to hurt Amy because he wouldn't take her back.
Well, they have clearly had some difficulty.
This is true.
Judge Judy,
yeah.
we agreed together to give custody of the kids to my parents, and it was a decision. We decided to take the kids out of Ed and Terry's
Well,
house
then Amy's
because it
on-
was not a fit environment for our children.
Well, Jeff, I don't necessarily disagree with you, because I don't think that the kind of environment where you have this kind of hostility is a good place for children. It's a good thing for children to be surrounded by the love and support of grandparents. Grandparents are nice to children. You know, they do all the nice things for kids and don't usually have any of the downside, discipline, and that sort of stuff. But bottom line is, if you are 2 reasonable people, you're going to have to make a solid home for yourselves so that you can take care of your children, because it's not fair for children to bounce around from one home to another home to your home, to not see you for weeks at a time. Children don't understand that, especially when they're 2 and 4 years old. How old are you?
28 today.
Oh, well, we share a birthday.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Seems to me it's time for you 2 kids to really grow up and understand that you made these 2 babies, and it's your responsibility to grow up and make a home for them. I also want you to think, Amy, that you only have one mother. She may not be perfect. She may have made some tremendous mistakes. You made mistakes. And Let's discount Ed. Ed is not really part of your life. She's part of your life. And if she's made mistakes as a mother, you're supposed to forgive her. Mothers are supposed to have unconditional love for their children. And children, as they get older, are supposed to forgive the frailties of a parent, because parents aren't perfect. Your kids will benefit from loving two sets of grandparents. All right? Okay. You're going to buy your mother some new glasses. Want to give her a hug? Please. Huh? Not yet?
Nope. Not ready to yet.
Will you think about it? Please?
Yep.
Okay. Good luck.
Excuse you may step out. Out the back door.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She's telling everybody the wrong things. She tells people what she wants them to hear and not what you two discussed.
I've been through a lot with this woman, and there's just no ending to the games that I'm going through, and I'm sick of it. And this is the end of it right here, and I've already made up my mind, so.
Parties on Azada versus Daisy. Step forward, please.
23-year-old Scott Azada is suing his ex-girlfriend and mother of his child, Karen Daisy, after she kicked and damaged his car during an argument.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise.
Now, this is case number 274 on the calendar in the matter of Azada versus Daisy. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat.
Well, I have really two complaints here. One is your complaint, sir, against her. You're suing her because you say she purposely kicked your car, causing damage to it.
Yes.
And I have your complaint against him for several $1,000s. I think you're suing for $3,000 because you say he assaulted you.
Yes.
From what I gather from these papers, you two children have a child.
Yes.
And how old is this child?
She's 16 months.
How old are you?
23.
And how old were you when you had this baby?
It was right after my 16th birthday.
Were you living
right
at
after my 17th birthday. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Were you living at home then?
I was living with him, and then about 2 weeks before I had the baby, I was getting no support from him, so I moved back in with my mom to get some support. Then right after I had the baby, then I moved back in with him.
You live at home?
Yes, I moved back there about 4 months ago.
So you live with your mother?
Yes.
And father?
No.
Just with your mother?
Yes.
Actually, I took responsibility for her for 3 years when her mother didn't want responsibility of her anymore, gave up custody of her, and I basically took her in for 3 years. When she was 9 months pregnant, her mother said that she didn't want her to move back home. She said that there was shelters out there that would take care of a teenage mother.
What'd you have problems with your mom about?
Just normal, rebellious. I wanted to go out. She wanted me.
You have a drug problem?
No.
Never?
No.
You hesitated for a minute.
I have done, yes, I have done drugs before in the past.
Know that. And you, sir?
Drug problem? No.
Yeah. Have you done any drugs?
No.
Was she doing drugs when she was living with you?
Yes, she was smoking marijuana.
Mm-hmm. What about when she was pregnant?
I don't believe so. Not that I can remember.
What
now.
about after the baby was born?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you separated, and then this incident occurred with your car. You want to tell me your version of it, sir?
Well, I was going to pick up a friend which lives close by to where she lives. And on the way back, we happened to see her walking with my daughter. So I stopped to, see my daughter. And
what time was this, sir?
It was about 9:45 p.m. She lives in a kind of a bad neighborhood. I was concerned for the welfare of my child. She said that she never walks the baby at that time, but obviously she does. when she came over to us, she asked us where we were going. I said we were going to go out. And she spit on us. She spit on me and him through my car window.
Let's take this step by step. And I want you to understand something. I'm very, very smart.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they keep me here. Not because I'm gorgeous. Right, Bird?
Well, that's a good enough reason.
I stopped my car. She came over to where my car was. I opened the door to the car, got out, saw my daughter.
What did you say to her?
I said, what are you doing with the baby out at this time at night?
And what? Okay, so right away we got a problem. You're saying to her, what are you doing outside with the baby? And what did she say to you?
She said that she was going to call me at a payphone across the street.
That was her answer?
Mm-hmm.
So far, is that correct?
No.
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 So then what happened?
So then after I, said goodbye to my daughter, I tried to leave. I got into my car. She put the baby stroller in front of my car door so I could not shut it. So I calmly got out and, moved the stroller away, shut my door. She said, where are you going? Going out. She spit on us. And then when I was pulling out, she started kicking my car.
What kind of car was this?
It's a Chevy Cavalier.
Okay, and I assume you have pictures to show me.
Yes.
Could I see them, please?
I also have an estimate.
I'll see that too. Okay. Now let's hear your version of the events and what you say happened on that evening.
Okay, normally I don't take my daughter out that late, but she was still up. I was going to get a treat for us from the store, about 200 feet from my apartment door to the Circle K across the street, okay? Walked to the store, got my things, was halfway across the street from the store and my apartment complex when I see him drive by. He makes a U-turn, turns into my apartment complex, and gets out and says, what are you doing with my daughter out this late, blah, blah, blah. Just starts totally harassing me. Yeah, I said, I'm not doing this in front of my daughter. So I start walking away. That's when he grabs me by my hair. I didn't know he was coming, because it was all quiet. He just grabs me by my hair and proceeds to just grab me by my arm, like kind of drag me on the ground. I skinned my knee. Then I got up, started to leave again. He kicks me in the stomach. I lose my wind, I gather myself up, and then by then I grab the stroller, start running for my apartment. I yell back, I am calling the police, you're not getting away with this one. He yells, I have 2 witnesses that say I didn't touch you. Okay, the whole time this was happening, this guy over here sitting in the chair, he was laughing. He sees a girl getting beat up, he's laughing, okay?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm telling you, the only one that I feel sorry for in this situation is this 18-month-old baby who happens to have 2 morons for parents.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Scott Azada is suing the mother of his child, 18-year-old Karen Dacey, claiming she kicked and damaged his car during an argument. Karen says Scott is abusive towards her and denies kicking his car.
So did you go up and call the police?
Yes, my mom was just going to bed, whatever. She said, Karen, I really don't want to deal with this tonight. So she asked me to make the phone call from across the street at the Circle K. I have a police report. They came out and...
You mean your mother told you, don't call from my house, go across the street? Is that what your mother told you? I'm asking you a question. Your mother told you, don't call from the house.
She didn't say don't. I could. She didn't... I told her I was going to call across the street. No, she didn't say. She was just saying, why do we have to deal with this? Why does this always have to happen? Blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, I was mad. I was like, just forget about it. I'll just call from across the street. I just don't want to bring her into any more. I've had so many problems with him. everybody has to witness it around me. That's why she's here. I lost my job because she didn't want to witness this anymore. Yes.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Teresa Garner.
You said she was your nanny for a while. Do you mean she was your babysitter?
She was a babysitter. I have 3 children. I met Karen through Scott. He used to work at the mall that we have a plant rental and maintenance company, and we did the plants. I met Scott there. After Michelle was born, she didn't want to go back to work at Panda Express, a little fast food place, so I gave her a job where she could have the baby there.
Where she could have the baby at your place of business?
Right, where she was taking care of my kid, she could have the baby. Several times, Your Honor, she's come over crying. I took the baby away from these two in one incident because they're fighting all the time in front of my house. I told him neither one of them could have the baby. When they were acting like that, he had her outside, was trying to push her in the car, same thing, pulling her hair, calling her names. The verbal abuse went on forever. Little codes on her beeper, 187, which I guess is murder or something, and all this other kind of junk.
Have you ever seen him put his hands on her?
Yes, I have.
Sit down.
Thank you.
May I say something?
Absolutely. Step up here. Tell me your name.
Kevin Meimersdorf. When this occurred that night, also when she was all trying to get him away from the car to tell him, like wanting to talk to him privately, and he was like, "No, I got these witnesses. You can say whatever you have to say right here by the car."
You think that that's helpful to him?
Well,
what you just told me?
Well, yeah. I'd like to
just
say
You think that that's helpful?
Yeah.
I got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Where were you going?
We're going to my brother's house to pick him up.
And where does he live?
He lives on Chop and Boulder.
And how far is that from where the defendant lives?
I'd say maybe a quarter mile, if that.
Mm-hmm. And is there another way of getting there other than passing by the front of her apartment complex?
There is. Yes, there is. Yes,
Good.
there is.
So you could have gone a different route.
Right.
Who was driving?
He was.
So yet he chose to drive by her apartment complex. Right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And when he got out of the car, the first thing he said to her is, "What are you doing outside at 9:15 with the baby?"
Right.
But he didn't say it in that kind of tone, did he?
No.
No.
I mean, well, he just exactly the tone what you just said. What are
you
you
think
doing?
so? Is that what you remember, sir? Is that as true as everything else
Yes,
that you're going
ma'am.
to tell me today?
Yes,
That in a very calm tone, he said to her, "Why are you out with the baby at 9:15?" Is that the tone?
Well, it might have been a little bit, a little bit more higher than that. I mean, definitely.
Might
I mean,
have been,
not at a soft tone, but I mean, he's like, "What are you doing at this late at night?" Basically, at 9:30 at night, in this neighborhood.
And when he said that to her, sir, was there any profanity dotting his words? Like, did he say, "What the blank are you doing
No,
blank out at this blank hour"? Does that sound, ring a bell?
No, ma'am.
So far, I'm not getting the ring of truth from you, sir.
You're getting everything, all the truth.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because it does, I mean, I'm not saying she's terrific.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, she's not terrific.
Right.
Right? And I'm telling you, the only one that I feel sorry for in this situation is this 18-month-old baby,
right,
who happens to have 2 morons for parents, right? Her, because she doesn't know whether she's here or there or where she's going to be or what she's going to do or anything else. She's a baby. And you, who
Right.
enjoy a reasonable order of visitation from 2 in the afternoon till 8 o'clock at night, 4 days a week.
I haven't been able to enjoy it because I haven't been getting my visitation.
Well, then you go to court, sir, and you deal with it.
I am. I'm in the process of doing
Then
that.
then that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to go
I
around
didn't-
where she's living and confront her.
Oh, but that was not my main priority to go
I
over
didn't
there.
ask you whether it was your main priority. It shouldn't have been any priority. What you do is, if you've had periods of domestic violence and negative interaction with her, you stay away from her.
I've never, but she comes to my work also and harasses me there.
Just a second. I don't doubt that she does that.
And calls my house and comes by my house.
Listen to me. I don't doubt that she does that. Because I think she's a flake. I do.
She is.
I believe she's a flake. This lady knows she's a flake, right?
Young.
Young.
Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Flaky, young, too young to have an 18, to
That's
be
right.
responsible for an 18-month-old baby.
I agree.
There's no question about that. There is also no question in my mind, sir, that this evening wasn't as you have indicated to me, that you were just driving by to go pick up a friend and all of a sudden you saw her. You went by her apartment complex, and it was the wrong thing to do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you've taken drugs in the last 6 to 9 months, the hair follicle test will establish it. And if you wish to go, we will make arrangements for you to go immediately.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Scott Azada claims the mother of his child, Karen Dacey, kicked his car. Karen says she has a restraining order because Scott is abusive.
Mr. Azada, you play with fire, you're going to get burned. You screw around with a teenager and make a baby with her, and that doesn't mean that your life's going to be easy. It's going to be harder. You have a child, and if you think that she's incapable of taking care of this child, and you may be right, and you may be a more appropriate custodial parent, the way to deal with it is through the court, not in the street at 9:45.
I feel, you know, I'm concerned about the welfare of my daughter. That is the main
Then,
priority
sir, you have
here.
to deal with that through the courts.
I've been dealing with it for 5 months, and I haven't got one bit of satisfaction. I haven't even got a court date yet.
The court system didn't make your baby. Judge didn't get in there that night. That's right. You did. And you were old enough to have known better.
Yes.
You were, in the eyes of the law, an adult. She was a minor, in the eyes of the law. So, when you went to the police, did they arrest him?
No, he was long gone.
And you, sir, did you make a police report?
No, I kind of just went home because I didn't want to deal with her anymore.
Did you ever pull her hair?
No.
Never?
No.
You mean she's lying when she says she saw you pull her hair?
She's also lying about her taking my child. She's never, I don't even trust her with my child over there because she smokes just as much dope as she does.
Can I say something in my defense? No,
I don't think she's capable of taking care of her own kids.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Well, I think that you two young people better decide that you're going to straighten up your lives because you made a baby, and the baby is the only innocent in this situation.
This is a picture of what looks exactly like a cigarette burn or...
And I've also...
Shh. Would you let her finish?
On my daughter, when she came home from visiting with him, I changed her diaper and into her pajamas right away, and I noticed this. He smokes, his whole family smokes, okay? And about the drugs and smoking, whatever, I have not even done any drugs since I've been with him. And the
Madam,
reason why
let me tell you something. A, he never burned your baby with a cigarette. Never happened. You could have a picture there, you could have 20 pictures there. I'm telling you, I've been in this business for 1/4 century. This man never purposefully injured that child, nor did he permit anybody else to purposefully injure that child. Now, he may have done lots of negative things to you, but he never purposely hurt his daughter. So you may be able to convince some other family court judge or some other moron that he did with the picture that you're going to show him. But I'm telling you, he never purposely hurt your daughter.
How would you know that?
How would I know it? Because I'm very smart. And I'm smarter than you'll be if you live to be 500. And I'm also prepared to tell you that you do smoke dope, and you have smoked dope more recently than from the time you first met him. And if I sent you today to have a hair follicle test, I guarantee you that that hair follicle test would bear me out. And if you are willing to go, we will make the arrangements for you to go for a hair follicle test, because the hair follicle test will establish when the last time, if you've smoked drugs or taken drugs in the last 6 to 9 months, the hair follicle test will establish it. And if you wish to go, we will make arrangements for you to go immediately.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Would you like me to make the arrangements right now, and I can have a hair follicle test done right now?
All I have to say to that is Not unless he's getting one. This guy has done more than marijuana.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Why am I going to show something it was less than 6 months ago because me and him only broke up 3.5 months ago. Why am I going to show what is wrong with me or whatever if this guy's sitting here, oh, I don't do drugs. This guy is the king of selling drugs, doing drugs, whatever.
Listen to me.
So why do we care about what I'm doing?
Why? There's a very easy answer to that question, madam. Because right now you are the primary custodial.
What I've done.
Hey! Right now you are the primary custodial parent of an 18-month-old child. That's why it's more important. And so I asked you a simple question. I said, do you want me to make arrangements for you to go for a hair follicle test? Your answer was no. Good. This is the judgment of the court. The judgment of the court is as follows. I am awarding the plaintiff $585 to fix his car. I am awarding the defendant $585 for the assault. That's a wash. Get out of here.
Parties are excused. Step out. You'll get him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She's been coming home with injuries, saying words that 1.5-year-olds should not be saying, all sorts of things.
It's just all garbage, pretty much.
I got one thing to say. You sell marijuana to little kids in the neighborhood, and I know that. And that's all I got to say.
Leave me alone. I'm glad that this happened.
Don't worry,
Just
I've
leave
left
me
you
alone.
alone for a long time,
I don't love you
girl.
anymore. Don't want you.
Parties on Stringfellow versus Parrish. Step forward, please.
Truck driver Ricky Stringfellow is suing his adopted son, 21-year-old store manager Tony Parrish, for not repaying a car loan. And he says he kicked Tony out for threatening his mom.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, it's case number 165 on the calendar in the matter of Stringfellow versus Parrish. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
This is a rather sad situation. Mr. Stringfellow, this is your stepson. Is that right?
Yes.
Are you his mother? According to your complaint, you made a loan to your stepson to buy a car or a truck, and he didn't pay you back. Is that what this is about?
That's correct.
As a result of that, he says that he was asked to leave the house, and he has not really been able to have free contact with his mother. And you have a sister?
Yes, ma'am.
And a sister. How old are you?
Now I'm 21.
Tell me about this loan, Mr. Stringfellow.
It's just a family loan. He was wanting to buy a car, and there was a used pickup truck involved. And I told him that I would loan him the money to fix the truck up, and he could drive that and would have no payments or low payments. And he didn't want to do that. He wanted to buy a new car.
Mm-hmm.
And I lent him the money, and
How much money did you lend him?
$1,400 and some change.
Okay. And he bought a car, and what was your arrangement as far as paying it back?
He was to pay his mother back at, what was it, baby?
His first paycheck of every month.
The first paycheck of every month.
How much was his first paycheck of each month supposed to be?
It's around $400.
Why don't you step up here? Hmm?
It was around $400.
Okay.
Judy, can I say that I
Sure.
have muscle spasms?
Sure, absolutely. You feeling all right? You want to stop for a minute?
Yeah, just give me a minute. I'll be okay.
Sure. Can you tell me this story?
Yes, ma'am.
So the first paycheck came, and you didn't get a payment from your son. Is that what happened?
That's correct.
Did you speak to him, or did his stepfather?
We both spoke to him. He usually gets paid on Friday. When Friday came and the paycheck, he didn't turn over to me. I asked him where his paycheck was. That particular time, the paychecks weren't going to come until Saturday. So on Saturday, the paychecks came, but he forgot and left it at the office. He'd bring it home on Monday. On Monday, he forgot it again. He would bring it on Tuesday. When Tuesday got there, he finally brought it home, and finally Wednesday, he tells us that he got health insurance at his work and that they had deducted the entire premium out of his check, and he didn't know it because it was short.
So did he give you the check?
No, ma'am. He had already cashed the check, and he had been instructed by his stepfather to bring the check to me in its entirety and that I would deposit it.
Okay, did he give you any money?
No, he did not.
Who asked your son to leave the house?
My husband asked him to leave the house.
When was that?
This was in probably, I would say, 1st of October.
How much after this car loan?
A little over a month, but leaving the house had nothing to do with the car loan.
What was that about?
He had gotten belligerent toward myself and his sister.
How belligerent, Mrs. Stringfellow?
Talking to me very abruptly, pushing me around.
You mean physically touching you?
And so my husband had told him that he would not endure this in our home and that he would need to seek other living arrangements.
Okay, Mr. Parrish.
First of all, I love my mom. She took me out of a bad situation, period.
What do you mean she took you out of a bad situation?
My previous home where I lived before I met her, I was in drugs and alcohol. My stepfather there was very abusive. He hit me, stuff like that. So she took me out of that.
So you're an adopted child?
Yes.
How old were you when your mom adopted you?
Anywhere from 15 to 16. I was in the end, right at the end of 9th grade.
So you've been living in their home and been her child for the last 5 years?
6 years, yes.
6 years. So you love her?
Very much. And two, Your Honor, I never touched or even did anything to my mom. We had arguments, I admit to that. But they wasn't very physical on my side. She used to grab my chin and everything. At that point, I pushed her back and held her back. That was the only
So you put your hands on her,
right.
is what you said.
When she grabs me, I held her hand.
When you
and I
say she
moved
grabbed you said she grabbed your chin.
Always.
Like this?
Yes. She always grabbed me like that. Always.
Like this?
Yes.
And you pushed her?
Right. I pushed her
that's-
hands. I didn't push her chest. And
Okay.
there's a different means there.
All right, but you put your hands on her and you're bigger than she is, and
Right.
that's it. So they told you to leave. What about this $1,400 loan?
Well, it all started that day that we were supposed to go pick up this Dodge at her friend's house, the truck in question.
You mean the old truck
Yes, ma'am.
that you don't have, that you didn't like?
Right.
So you went there,
Right.
you saw this old truck, you didn't like it.
Correct.
Go ahead.
At that point, Mr. Stringfellow said, "Okay, I'll make you a deal. You get paid you get paid twice a month. You keep one paycheck, I'll keep the other, and we can sell the truck." And Jim, which is the person that was fixing the truck up, said he can get $1,300 out of it. So I said I agreed to that. Well, later that night, Mr. Stringfellow agreed to go ahead and give me the $1,300 up front because I was going to have to wait 2 weeks to a month to actually get the money from the truck to get with my $2,000 to put down on a car payment. At that point, I said, you know, he offered me the $1,300, and I said, okay, well, what if we sell the truck for less? Because at that point, if he agreed to, I had to pay him anything, I would never took the money. I would have waited to sell the truck.
Was this truck ever sold?
No, ma'am,
No,
I
ma'am.
still own the truck. We never intended to sell the truck.
And see, that was never, they never told me that. If I knew if it was a loan to him, I would have been paying it back a year ago.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
His stepfather was a drunk using dope. We tried to contact his biological father in the military. He kept running, trying to stay away from us because he thought we was wanting child support.
And later today,
So in exchange for $250 for groceries, cigarettes, and medication, you wanted them to send you the title to the mobile home.
Yes, and they said they would.
Well, why would they do that for something that you say is
'Cause
worth $2,500? They say $7,000.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ricky Stringfellow wants his adopted son to pay back a car loan.
How did you find this young man?
This young man was a friend of my daughter's in band. He, like you said, he came from a terrible home. His stepfather was a drunk using dope. He knocked him around a lot. He had no use for him. And I really felt sorry for the child. You know, when you get a kid at a band concert and you look at him and he's fixing to walk about 20 miles home, and you know, when he gets there, you know, there's nobody there going to be up to accept him and this type of thing. So I started taking him home. I took him into my home. He started coming into my house on weekends and staying with me. The first weekend I kept him. I asked to meet his mom. He said, "Oh, my mom won't care." I kept him.
Is this your biological mother?
Right.
Right. I kept this child from Saturday morning till I took him to school on Monday morning. You know, never seeing his mother. Picked him up again on Thursday, kept him then off and on, and then in August, she signed him over to me. We tried to contact his biological father in the military. He kept running, trying to stay away from us because he thought we was wanting child support. He made no effort to come and see the child, and so the judge awarded me custody. And that's how I got him.
That sound right to you?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like the kind of lady who would lie to me.
No.
Where are you living now?
At the present time, I'm living in North Little Rock.
Do you have your own apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
You still working?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a store manager.
Well, it would seem to me that you owe this lady a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I owe her a lot.
And that this problem of this $1,400 is a problem that she probably has with this new husband. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's got to get the money back so that they could be happy together and not have this as an irritant. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Next issue. You're an adult now.
Right.
21 years old. Right? Your mother goes like this. Sit on your hands.
Okay.
You sit down with your spasm for a second.
Thank you.
You came into this family situation kind of late, sir. And it seems to me that your wife is a very special human being.
She is.
And it seems to me that with the kind of background and childhood this young man had, despite the odds, he turned out reasonably well. He's 21 years old. He's been holding down a job for 2.5 years. He supports himself now. He lives by himself. More than I can say for my kids at age 21, I can tell you that. So why don't we try to let this bad incident just go away? Do you think you could do that?
It would be nice to have a fresh start. And the only thing that's kept him from being away from our home is I've told him when he comes into our home, he's to conduct himself as a gentleman and as a son. And that doesn't mean being abusive to his sister nor his mother.
That's over, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you traveled to court here from Arkansas?
Yes, ma'am.
Came on different planes?
Yes.
Stayed at different hotels last night? Yes. How about going out for breakfast together?
That'd be great.
Okay, Mrs. Stringfellow?
Be fine.
Right after court?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,400. You pay for breakfast.
Okay.
Great.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm actually glad that the fact that I can actually talk to my mom now with him on national TV saying that I can.
I'm glad I've got my son back. It all turned out okay.
I love you, son. Love you.
And now the next case.
Parties on Christian versus Coleman. Step forward, please.
Clyde Christian says his sister, Nancy Coleman, owes him a motorhome and storage fees.
Mr. Christian, this is your sister.
Yes.
You are her husband?
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing her because you want her to turn over the title to her mobile home because you say you did a lot of work on it. She says,
no.
You initially took the mobile home, but then she agreed to let you keep it.
Borrow it.
Borrow it because one of your kids needed it?
No. He was going through a bad divorce at the time. And I felt sorry for him, and I let him use the motor home for a while. And I said, when you get your own place, then I was going to go get it. And I tried several times to go get it. He always come up with an excuse why I couldn't have it. And now he wants the motor home. And it's not right.
Okay, so you want that back?
Yeah.
Correct.
Plus my hand controls.
What kind of hand controls?
Hand controls that go in a vehicle for people that's handicapped, so you can use your hands to drive instead of your feet.
Do you drive a car now?
Not now, but I want to get me a car later.
Okay.
Not right now.
All right, so you tell me, Mr. Christian, your version of how this motor home ended up on your property.
Okay. In July of '96, my sister let us borrow the motor home.
Okay.
We took it to Yermo when I went to work there. In October the same year, I asked her to purchase the motorhome. She said no, I could not. At that time, I asked her what she wanted me to do with it, since I'm not a storage facility. She told me to store it and keep it for her. I called and let her know that it was $15 a day, average
Just a second.
rate.
Hold on. Mr. Christian, you borrowed it in July of '96.
Yes.
Did she charge you for using the motorhome?
No.
Well, why should you think that you should charge her for storage? She's your sister.
Yes.
She didn't charge you for using it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I love my brother. I really do love him, but he should never done this to me. I don't deserve this.
Closed captioning sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Clyde Christian says his sister, Nancy Coleman, owes him a motorhome and storage fees.
So why do you think that you should charge her for storage, which you say is $15 a day?
When I asked her to purchase it and she said no, I asked her, what do you want me to do with this motorhome? She said, keep it and store it for me. And I told her, look, I will call and find out what it costs. I did, and the average was $15 a day. This is almost...
Just a second.
Yes.
So you found out that it was $15 a day. And what happened after you found out that the average cost was $15 a day?
I let her know this.
What do you mean you let her know?
I called her on the phone.
Yes.
And let her know this is what the average charge would be.
Did he ever call you?
No.
No, he didn't.
Because of that.
No, he didn't. He never called you. Come on, Mr. Christian. Just doesn't sound right to me.
Can I call my witness?
To tell me what?
That we did call her.
Sure. Let me have a witness
James?
who wants to tell me that they were there. Who are you?
I'm his son.
And you were using the mobile home.
For the 4 months, yeah.
And how long did you live in it?
For those first 3 months till we got our own place.
Did you store anything in it?
None of ours.
Of whose?
They had some things in it.
Like what?
His ham radio, hand controls.
Where is that stuff now?
His ham radio he has, and the hand controls are with us.
So you have the hand controls?
Yeah.
Now, were you present when this alleged conversation took place about storage fees?
I don't know about the conversation.
You don't?
No.
Good. Sit down. Any other witness you want to bring up?
My wife, Marcia?
Sure. Do you want to come up here and be
I will.
tested?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Do you want to tell me that you were present and you overheard a conversation with his sister about a storage fee of $15?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Sure, let me hear.
We've only been married since November, so I wasn't in on the beginning of this whole thing.
So just a second. So you weren't privy to any conversation in 1996 that talked about $15 in storage fees?
We had another conversation in January of this year, and I was
Just a
standing
second.
right there.
So my question to you is, and the response is, you were not present in 96 to talk about storage fees?
Not that first one, no, ma'am.
Good. So in January of 96, tell me about the conversation.
January of 98.
January of 98, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. We had them on the phone again, and we were telling them, you know, we'd like to buy it. Answered no. They asked for some money for medication for my sister-in-law, which we gladly sent. They said they would send the title to the motorhome in return for that, and they did not do that. And he asked her again about the $15 a day storage fee.
But according to you, as recently as a few months ago, your husband was still interested in buying the motorhome.
He has been, yes.
Huh. Wow.
Now, how much is this motorhome worth?
About $7,000.
$7,000. How much do you say it's worth?
$2,500 or less.
Okay. And how much did you send in for medication for your sister?
We sent her $50 for medication and another $200 for groceries and cigarettes.
So, according to your wife, in exchange for $250 for groceries, cigarettes, and medication, you wanted them to send you the title to the mobile home.
Yes, and they said they would.
Well, why would they do that for something that you say is
'Cause
worth $2,500? They say $7,000.
Well, Your Honor, it hasn't been tagged in 2 years, and I've tried to get them to send me the title so it could be tagged, and I've tried to purchase it numerous times.
They don't want to sell it to you, Mr.
Well-
Christian. They don't want to sell it to you, so get it off your property.
Well, they won't come and get it off our property.
Your Honor?
Just a second. You're going to get it?
Yes, ma'am. I'll
When?
get it today, if I can get it.
Good, go get it. He doesn't want it on his property anymore.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
I'm not satisfied, sir, that they were told about the storage charges. And in addition, I think that your sister was very gracious by giving you the motorhome to use in your time of need. And certainly, if you went to rent a mobile home or a motorhome, it would be substantially more than $15 that you want to charge them for storage. She wasn't charging you. She said if you need it, take it.
Well, Your Honor, I didn't charge her with that. I didn't charge her till after the agreement.
Mr. Christian, I don't believe that
I
there was an
wasn't trying
agreement
to.
for storage because I believe that all along you wanted to buy this thing. That's
Right.
what your wife said. They don't want to sell it to you. They say it's worth $7,000. You say it's worth $2,500. You
Right.
can't come to terms on it. Go pick up your motorhome, sir,
Okay.
today.
Okay.
And in the motorhome, sir, I want you to put the hand controls. Understood? That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Out the back door to your right.
And on the next Judge Judy.
I love my brother. I really do love him, but he should never done this to me. I don't deserve this.
I've tried to be her brother for 20 years, and I'm awful tired of the feud and the fighting. I'm not satisfied.
Robin Grant is in court with her two children, Marie 9 and Robin 11, suing their estranged father, Colden Grant. The kids claim he won't return the possessions they left behind after the divorce.
Order. All rise.
Judge, this is number 273 on the calendar in the matter of Grant versus Grant. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Tell me your first name.
Robin.
And yours?
Maria.
How old are you, Robin?
11.
Maria?
9.
This is your dad. That's your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to talk to both of you, because I've read your papers. I'm going to talk to you sort of privately a little bit later. Okay?
Okay.
So what I would like you to do for now is, this is Officer Byrd.
Hello.
He's going to take you into my chambers for a minute to sit down and wait for me, because I want to talk to your mom and dad for a minute.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Miss Grant, would you step up here, please? Mr. and Mrs. Grant, from what I gather from your papers, you were married in 1975.
Correct.
And these are your two girls.
Yes.
You're now divorced.
No.
Separated.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And you lived in New York most of your married life, is that right?
Yes. All of our married life was in New York.
When did you separate?
November of 1986.
No, 96.
I'm sorry, 96.
So you were married for 21 years before you separated?
Correct.
And I gather that this separation was not a happy one. They usually
Wasn't
are not.
happy.
But that you left New York, Mrs. Grant, is
I
that
went
right?
to Hawaii. We resided in Hawaii.
Who resided in Hawaii?
Me and the children.
You left your husband?
Oh, yeah.
Why did you decide to move to Hawaii?
Well, I had family there, and I wanted distance. So
Why did you want distance?
It was a horrible relationship. It became threatening on many levels, and I thought the further, the better.
How did you feel as if that impacted on the children?
It had to be negative and positive. It was positive because it took them out of a very harmful situation.
How harmful, Mrs. Grant?
Very harmful.
Was it a physically abusive relationship?
Oh, yeah.
When you say, oh, yeah, you say that very mildly.
Yeah, I can say that now because I'm not in danger anymore. Yes, it was.
Was any of this violence in front of the children?
Yes.
Is that right, sir?
No, it's not true.
Well, if I asked your girls whether they ever saw you being physically abusive towards your wife, what do you think they would say?
They would say no.
Did you get permission from the court to leave the jurisdiction?
Oh, yeah.
I gave permission for the children to
The
leave
courts
with
gave.
her. No, it was my permission that did it.
Why, Mr. Grant, did you give permission for your wife to go so many thousands of miles away with your children?
For my children to go through this, I couldn't let them go through any more court litigation, so it was me that said, let her have full custody and let the children be with her.
Do you have other children, Mr. Grant?
No.
The reason that I'm asking to speak to you first before I speak to the girls is the girls want their things back. That's what this lawsuit is about. I don't know exactly what things they want, and I assume they're going to tell me. But it's always a very sad thing when children are brought into a domestic situation between their parents. There's a saying that always sticks in my mind, Mrs. Grant and Mr. Grant, and that is you're supposed to love your children more than you hate each other when you separate. Children usually need two parents.
They should do.
If they've estranged themselves for whatever reason, either because one parent encourages it or not, they usually grow up eventually resenting the parent that caused the estrangement, and that could be either one of you. So, Mrs. Grant, I'm going to ask you this question. Let us assume that it was a miserable relationship with your husband. You think it's a good idea that your children should have negative feelings about him?
They're free to have whatever feelings they want to.
Well, you're the custodial parent, Mrs. Grant. So really, children are pretty pliable, you know, and they take their lead from whoever is taking care of them.
No, I'm not going to push the children either way. If they have negative feelings or negative thoughts, they can vent those. If they don't, they don't.
Okay. Well, what things do your daughters want from their father?
What they really want are the things from their bedroom, their baby pictures, videos, stamp collections, telescopes, microscopes, things of that nature.
Well, baby pictures and things, he says he wants to keep because he likes to have them. And I can understand that. You can make copies of those and send them to the girls, right?
Yes.
That's an easy. The other things are just things, microscope, stamp collection, those things. You have no problem with returning those to the girls, do you?
No, I have no problem.
But it's the pictures and the videos.
It's the pictures and the videos.
And that's also, in this age of technology, you can make copies,
duplicate.
keep one for yourself, and then see that the girls get their pictures and stuff so that they also can look at times when they were little and maybe you were all a family and living happily together. All right, I would like to speak to your children. So why don't the two of you have a seat?
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I'm telling you that he loves you.
You're telling me.
I'm telling you that he
He's
loves you.
not. You're.
Is it important for you to hear it from him?
No, because it's a lie.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robin Grant is suing her ex-husband on behalf of their two children, Marie and Robin, because he won't return their belongings. Colden says he's being prohibited from seeing his children.
Hello, gorgeous girls.
Hello.
I understand you two are very bright. First of all, you're very tall
Yeah.
and very lovely.
Thank you.
So you know who I am, and I want to find out a little bit more about you. I've just had a talk with your mom and your dad. And it's always sad when parents get a divorce, right?
Depending, I don't think it's that sad because they're arguing and everything. So it's not sad that they're not arguing anymore.
To me, it was just about happy.
It's about happy. Why is that?
I don't have to go through a bunch of arguing and screaming and stuff like that.
So there was a lot of that in your house. But my sense is that your mother loves you and your father loves you. You're their only children. What things do you want your dad to give you back?
Well, I want my baby pictures.
Okay, let me tell you what your dad said about your pictures and the videos and stuff. Your dad's going to make copies of all the things because he would like to have them too, to see his children. You're his two children. He doesn't have any other kids. He loves you. And then you have a stamp collection.
Yeah.
Whose stamp collection?
Both of ours.
And he's going to send that back to you.
That's good.
And the telescope, is that what you want?
Yeah.
And your dad said he was going to send that back to you.
That's good.
Okay? So let's take care of that.
And our coin collection.
And your coin collection. Very valuable coin collection?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, my mom traveled like all over the world, and she got different like kinds of dollars from different places and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, is it your mom's coin collection or yours?
And she gave it to us.
Well, let me tell you this. It's really your mom's coin collection, if she was collecting it. There are certain things that are yours. There are certain things that may be a problem between your mother and your father. I don't want to get involved with that, and I don't think you ought to get involved with that. All right, so let's finish that. This is over. So let's talk honestly, the two of us, the three of us, two of you and one of me. You live very far away from your father.
Yeah.
Did you two girls ever witness any time when either of your parents put their hands on each other?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did?
Yep.
Tell me about it.
Well, once my dad tried twisting my mom's arm and stuff, so I stopped it.
Yes. What else?
Well, sometimes they just like get tussling matches sometimes. Tussling matches sometimes.
The two of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Colton's always trying to like talk over her and stuff like you're brainwashing them and stuff like that.
That happens. You know your mom loves you.
Yeah.
So does your father. I think you know that. I'm not so sure that you understand that. He really loves you. You question that?
Yeah.
He loves you.
Well, my true feelings are that I don't really want to be around him anymore.
Why?
The way he acts.
Like what? You have to tell me.
Okay. The way he acts is like ignorant.
How?
I can't explain it.
Let's say something to you. You know, the truth of the matter is, ladies, just amongst us three ladies, sometimes guys don't always do the right thing just because they're older. Sometimes parents don't do the right thing, mothers or fathers, even because they're parents. And you two gals are very smart. So in addition to being smart, you should be tolerant. Just because you're a parent doesn't make you perfect. Your father has disappointed you, right? You're supposed to not necessarily accept it and not necessarily understand it, but just say, he's my father. And I know he's made mistakes, but I'm telling you that he loves you.
You're telling me.
I'm telling you that he loves you.
He's not. You're telling.
Is it important for you to hear it from him?
No, because it's a lie.
No, it's not. He loves you. He really loves you. Would you spend a little time with him today?
No.
No, I've been with him for 8 years, and that's enough for me.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
They did witness a lot of shouting, a lot of screaming, and a lot of mutual pushing. They're very angry with you, sir. Your children will not grow up as whole human beings if they do not have any contact with their father.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robin Grant claims her ex-husband, Colden Grant, won't return their children's possessions. Colden says since Robin won't let him see his kids, he wants to keep the items.
Why don't you step back up, please?
May I ask her to view these, please?
Ms. Grant,
Your Honor?
I am not condoning any act of domestic violence that may have occurred in your home. I will tell you from what I heard from the children, there was only one instance that your younger daughter told me about when your husband twisted your arm. While I'm not condoning that, we're not talking about an ongoing pattern of physical violence that the children witnessed. They did witness a lot of shouting, a lot of screaming, and a lot of mutual pushing, shoving. They're very angry with you, sir. Your girls are very angry with you. And Mrs. Grant, I'm going to make a couple of suggestions to you. In the short time that I had to speak with your daughters, they are so fixed, although your older daughter clearly is sad about it, at not having contact with their father, that I think it almost would border on the criminal if you did not see to it that your children were engaged in some sort of therapy. Because I believe it is a tremendous mistake for children to be estranged from a non-custodial parent the way these children have been estranged from their father. Terrible mistake. But it's a mistake for girls not to want to receive mail from their father, not to want to communicate with him at all. That says something to me about the custodial parent, Mrs. Grant, because I've seen enough children of separation and divorce where there is a lot more domestic violence that goes on, and those children still want to have contact with their father. These children, for some reason, do not, and they were not able to articulate to me any really valid reason for it. So I must attribute that to things that they've heard at home. I think it's a tremendous mistake. I think in the long run you will be hurting your children and hurting them dramatically if you don't change your attitude with regard to him. He's their father. You picked him. You were married to him for 21 years. You were together for 21 years. You made 2 children. These are the only 2 children that you have. And if he is less of a husband or less of a father than your children would like, that's it. I've tried to explain to them, he still loves them. They have to feel as if he still loves them. They don't feel that way, and they must be getting that from someplace other than him. So I think you're making a big mistake if you don't encourage your children in that direction and not say to me at age 9 that you're going to let her make up her own mind what she wants to do. Okay?
And I hope that Robin's anger stopped filtering over to the children. It's really her anger that have my children feeling this way.
Well, I don't doubt that, sir, because I've very rarely seen children so fixed with basically what I've heard in the back without the kind of history that would suggest that that they have a good and valid reason for it. The marriage is over, it's over.
Did Maria relate to you that whenever they want to speak to him that I allow them to call? They stopped calling because he kept lying to them?
Miss Grant, what I'm telling you is there's a difference between children asking to call their father and feeling that they are betraying their mother if they're asking to call their father because she's so angry. Just listen to me, Mrs. Grant. You're shaking your head no. I've been in this business for a quarter of a century. I've probably seen 10,000 separations and divorces. They're all not so different. And children feel that if they ask to contact, communicate with the non-custodial parent, when there's so much anger on this side, that in some way they're being disloyal to their mother. So it's not a question of I let them call whenever they want to call. They have to be reinforced constantly with the idea that their father may have shortcomings, but he loves you.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Mr. Grant, you have promised me, sir, that you will return the children's things to them.
Yes.
That is their telescope, their stamp collection. I don't know about this coin collection that they spoke about. If you find it in your heart to return it to them, that's terrific. They certainly would like to have their pictures back, so you're going to make copies of all of those things and see to it that they get them. Return their things. It's stupid to have their things. Right?
Well, those are the only memories I have. I have no contact.
Okay.
So right now.
Well, but you know, you don't get warm from looking at a telescope, sir.
No.
So you have to return their things. It's important to them. So you can't be angry and also let that flow down to the children. It's a start. I don't know what will happen eventually, but Mrs. Grant, your children will not grow up as whole human beings if they do not have any contact with their father. By the time they're 20, 25 years old, it will be a void for them. And you should be protective of that. I think that you love them.
It's a void now.
Well, then you have to do something about it. You're their mother. You've moved them halfway across the world. So it's your responsibility to shorten that distance in whatever way you can, because they're going to have a void as adults. If they cannot accept the fact that good, bad, shortcomings, he's done things that disappoint them, this is their father, and if they don't feel as if he loves them, they're not going to grow up strong. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
He's an abuser. He's a physical abuser.
I never was abusive to her. I never was physical with her. She broke my arm when, with a can one time, and also she pulled the knife out on me.
Get the counseling, get some help, grow up, and he can be a part of their life. I have no problem with that.
হ্যালো সুন্দর এটা আপনি খুব সহজে করতে পারেন কিভাবে ডেভেলপমেন্ট কি রকম পেন্সিল লাগবে এই ভিডিওতে শেয়ার করবো অবশ্যই ভিডিওটা পুরো দেখতে পারবেন